West, y'all.
Oh, that's nice. Special concoction there. Is that the back of the 135 brew?
Oh, I can let you name it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. What does it taste like? What does it feel like?
Feels like home.
Yeah.
Being here in your new home. Tell you, this place, it's like a mansion. When I was driving down the hill, I was like, well, look at the. It's like, silly, this guy from the last place we saw you, but no, maybe we'll come up with the name by the end of our chat.
Yeah, no, it's been nice there, especially the old house we're at. Like it's falling apart and stuff. So good to be in the modern, in the modern place.
Well, that's the thing with landlords, right? When they're not, keeping their houses in shape.
Yeah,
and that's kind of what the healthy home standards are for.
Yeah.
So it's if they're breaching those,
Because last time we talked, you're involved with that sort of thing with the healthy homes, eh?
Yes, yeah. So I'm with an organisation called Sustain and Enable. Again, we're a community social enterprise. They're basically healthy home assessments, and so the idea there is to be able to go into a home and advise people on how to keep their home warm, dry and safe. But also if they're in a rental property, be aware of the standards, the healthy home standards that their landlords should be basically meeting. Because if they're not, it's about $7,500 in fines that you can sort of get for breaching the healthy home standards. And they brought that back in 2019. But essentially that's what I've been doing for the last year a lot, going into homes all over Auckland, having conversations with people. And obviously you want to, when you do have a conversation with someone in a rental property, the last thing you want to do is jeopardize their tenancy. So I might come in and say, these curtains, or, there's not enough insulation, for example. The R value is terrible, or there's none at all. Or they've got foil insulation. Remember they had foil insulation, quite prominent in the 80s? I've been into houses and there's still foil insulation. Yeah. They made it illegal now because it's a fire hazard. And so when you make people aware of that sort of stuff, it's just like, it's supposed to be for their safety. But at the same time, again, you don't want to get people kicked out of their homes. But I've spent a bit of time talking to landlords and property managers, because property managers have a quite a unique role in that they're the intermediary between the landlord and the tenant. And so, again, whether it's talking with property managers or landlords, you have to be very mindful of the advice you give. And I guess, again, when I go into a home, I'm just saying, this is just a conversation. Here's some ways that, your landlord could sort you out or could do a better job. But at the same time, here are some ways you can make your home a lot warmer, like curtains, for example, or just knowing when to open the windows. Because here in Auckland, if you open your windows all day and it's raining outside, you let in more moisture, which makes it harder to heat your home at night, which means then you have to, turn up your heat pump if you have one of those to basically get the house warm. So it's this constant sort of cycle of trying to manage your home. And then you don't want people to be in a cold, damp home, because that's where mold comes in, like we talked about last time. When you got mold, then people with respiratory conditions can have problems. And ultimately, I guess why the government brought the healthy home standards in was to keep people out of hospital. So that's the big thing. So that's been a bit of work, one of the hats.
Yeah. Because the thing I'm thinking about is, how do you police that? When they change the law and that, like, of course you're gonna get the landlords that are honest and come out with, okay, we're gonna do this now.
Plenty of them, yeah, definitely.
Heaps of them. But then, you get the ones that don't want to do it and try to like hold back on it as much as they can.
Tenancy tribunal,
without getting in trouble.
Then it's a trip to the tenancy tribunal, and we go from there.
So I guess they have their checks and balances, and you get the tenants that complain, and it's, oh man, it's been cold, but you guys, come in to educate as well?
Yeah.
About that consultant?
Yeah, so we're funded through the Supporting Energy and Education and Communities Fund. So that comes through the Ministry of Business and Innovation, MB. And they basically, give us money to go and do our assessments for free, because normally people pay for them. Normally people, will pay us money to, there's a standard called Home Fit, which you might have heard of, where people can basically get their house home fit, because usually they want to sell their homes. So they say, nope, tick, it's got all the right things. If you want to buy our house, and that can justify how much they sell it for. And so that's sort of one thing. But again, we do a lot of our work for free. A lot of the projects we've had. So I think last time we spoke, I think still in training, maybe about a year ago. So since that time, I've basically led what's called we call it the Over 55s Energy Project. And the reason we gave it that name is because anyone that had someone in their household that's over 55 would go to a free assessment for. And I will say we've predominantly been into Pacifica homes out south, a few out west, over the shore, central Auckland, east Auckland, but predominantly out south because of some of the associations that we've been able to coordinate with, like Wakatautoa, for example. They have their elderly groups who meet. I was just out of Mangere today, and we we're just catching up with some of them. You go along there and they try and, feed you raro donuts, which I won't say no to. I definitely have a lot of those. But again, it's this sort of work, this education. And it's around education, being able to just advise people, educate people on, their rights in a lot of ways. But at the same time, and I don't want to stereotype our people too much, or Pacifica people too much, but a lot of them, they won't sort of push. They would like, that's this damage. I will just block it with something. There's multiple drafts in our home. I will just, put a towel in there or something like that.
There's black stuff in the corner. We'll just
that black stuff is we support the All Blacks because All Blacks are gonna win the World Cup this year, and so it's a lot of things like that. But then at the same time, it's when they're elderly, especially. I've found that it's a big part of our project is around behavioural change. So they're trying to encourage people to basically, like I said, ventilate their houses a lot better, or get a heat pump if they're eligible for the subsidy, or whether they can afford it to get those things. But our older generation, I just put it, like you said before, if it's cold, don't worry about the insulation, just put a top on. Like, yeah, sweet, that sounds about right. But for other people, they're willing to sort of like, if they're eligible for, I think I mentioned it last time, the Warmer Kiwi Homes Initiative. Do you remember that? So that's where if you live in a particular decile area, because there is a decile systems in New Zealand. It's a deprivation index from 2018, I think it is. And basically, if you're in they just changed it though, decile 7, 8, 9 or 10, you can get 80% off your insulation for, a subsidy on your insulation, or basically a heat pump or a heating device. But if you're in decile 10, they've changed it to where you get 90%. So who knows? Maybe in the future you'll get like 100% off. If you're in decile 10, most of the decile 10 places I've been to, funnily enough, some of them out. So where we live in Massey, Kopi Place, 10. We're a decile, I think 8. So Taitapu Street is a decile 8, and Kopi Place is a 10. So like the most deprived is a deprivation index, whereas most of the places that I've been to that are 10s are out south. And then obviously a lot of them, like some of them are owner-occupiers, because that's how to be eligible for the Warmer Kiwi homes, it is for owner-occupiers who can get that subsidy. It's going to help them. Obviously for the people that aren't eligible for the subsidies, you see all the banks coming up with the energy loans, PNZ, see all those ads. What's the ad with the Kia family?
Oh yeah,
go Sunil, go Sunil.
And the cricket thing.
He's trying to impress the girl because she's into climate change. Yeah, that's one way to get girls. Solar panels on the north side. Little things like that. So it's definitely an effort sort of through the different sectors to try and get that. But
it's pretty cool how they use the deprivation index to know the area, because it is it's like you line with yourself with the schools. To find out who the economic demographic is in certain areas.
And I don't know if those sort of areas change over time, but I do know that the one that we use to basically, because whenever I go into a home, like I'll look up the house, because you can go online, oneroofhomes.co.nz, they'll give you. What I like, is that you can look at their information about a house before you go in. Like I could look up your house. I should have. When I got here, I was like, whoa, fancy and flash. But you can look up people's houses and sort of get an idea of, what when it was built, for example, 2000s house, whatever it is. You can have a look at when it was sold, how much it was sold for. But then you can look up if they're an owner-occupier, you look up what decile they're in, because they might be wanting to get insulation, but they've never had it before in their house, and then they'd be eligible for the Warmer Kiwi homes if they're 7, 8, 9 or 10.
Right.
So it's just making people aware of that.
And that's part of the job for your organisation. So.
Yeah, it's part of the job. Although it's quite funny because we've picked up a lot of work from the Auckland Council.
Oh yeah.
And so, because there's a certain number of healthy home advisors here in Auckland, because you do like a certification, you get experience and stuff. But councils, they were offering a similar service. You might have heard about it, the home energy assessments. Just a different name, but basically the same thing, where they'll offering people owner occupiers a free assessment. Because a lot of the probably the owner occupiers that they would get or coming to the council were looking for like home fit, like I said before, people paying to get the certification. And while I will say the home energy assessments that we do, they're very similar to home fit. I mean, I do home fit as well, that certification. So it's that qualification. But again, it's ticking boxes, and again for owner occupiers, there's certain things to make your house marketable, and especially in the climate we have now, housing market. But the other side of that is rental properties, which tends to be where people will have more issues, and then social housing like Kāinga Ora. Kāinga Ora have their own healthy home services department that is supposed to go and do those things, but they're a bit hard to get a hold of, and they're a bit hard to sort of to deal with. So I've found a lot of the Kāinga Ora whares I've been into, it's like, they should have sorted this out and they should have sorted that out and done this, but they're so far behind because they're trying to get everything up to standard as well by the end of this year, next year. So
I've heard a few things about them, like the funding's getting cut or something, or some of it, or
potentially,
because I know some architects that have them as a client, like they've lost those contracts.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if that's there's. Yeah, I guess.
And it's all around the conversation of the recession coming for residential homes, which people are like yes and no about, because the people that say, I don't think so, because you see the amount of homes getting built right now.
Yeah.
We had the jib problem, the lack of jib around the country last year, eh?
Yeah, last year. Yeah.
All the prices were going up.
Yeah.
But then that's a sign of recession as well. If there's going to be too many homes built and then there's no one to occupy them.
No one to buy them, no one to occupy them, no one to rent them, all that sort of stuff. I mean, there's still a large number of houses in New Zealand that are unoccupied, but they could be rented out, but people won't rent them out because they won't get a good enough price to help them pay the mortgage. So that's kind of the thing as well. There's,
I think there was numbers of how many, they call it, there's the ghost houses, eh? Or ghost homes, eh?
Ghost homes. I think I used the example last time I was on here about the ghost towns or ghost cities in China. That one's in China. Where there's literally apartment blocks, 50 stories high, empty, but they're owned by singers. A bit like our singers buy property here and they live overseas, or they rent it out and get a property manager. Those are the fun ones to deal with, because you talk to the property manager and it's like, okay,
I had a conversation with I forgot her name. Sorry, but she came on to talk about, because she was running for the mayor. When they had the mayor elections.
How did you? Yeah, I might have heard that. That was sorry, that's for your name.
Yeah, but
Wayne Brown.
Nah, but
Wayne Brown.
But she was talking about in the strip in Henderson.
Yes,
like it's pretty. Pretty run down there. You could say the main strip.
Yep.
And she was saying they're owned by people that are overseas. They don't really care because they just want the rent and that's it.
Yeah.
They don't come and maintain the buildings and they're just there for they're just there.
Just collecting, I guess, in some sort of way. And I guess it made enough sense and made enough dollars for them to purchase the properties or the businesses at the time, but being able to maintain that over a long period of time, I guess that sort of coincides with sort of, COVID and lockdowns, and when, things were sort of shut down for a while and money wasn't flowing. And then they put those so-called those blue lanes and all that sort of stuff in. People just like, well, no one's going to the shops. But obviously they've got, I think in a lot of ways, a lot of those people, those overseas people, and I guess that's why if National opens up sort of more of the housing to them, they have money, and they have money that can sustain even through downturns or economic downturns, right? You've still got money there that you can just put there you go. I'm still going to keep the property because it will appreciate again. Yeah. It'll go up in value again, and then it'll be whatever we turn it into next. Yeah. But looking at the I went past yesterday on Lincoln Road on Ryman's, really starting to come through now. Hey, the
old people's homes.
Yeah, old people's homes. Yeah. No, just they're very flash, very nice. the kind of place where you'd want your, well, I guess for your own, if you're in that position where, you just wanted your own space, but in a good community, it's an option there. I did an assessment for a lady. She has her own rest home out South Auckland. She's from Papakura. Her rest home's there, and she was telling me, she hadn't had good things to say about sort of Ryman's and even the Boopers, where my dad was for a bit. Just sort of the system that they have, in that it's more about dollars, just getting a certain level of resident in. So they're not necessarily people that are, they have a bit of money, they have reasonable health, they're willing to sort of, invest and buy a property there. But they can't be too sick, or they can't, there's a certain demographic, was basically she was saying. And like, that's a Palangi lady, a very nice lady. And that's why when she opened up her rest home out south, she doesn't turn anyone away. But she did say, and this is kind of what is becoming more practice now, is that you're getting a lot more brown faces, brown people going into rest homes. And again, that's kind of like, I remember when we first talked about sort of changes in culture, we're like, what are some of the changes? I mean, it's not just what we do individually, but what we do socially as well, in terms of what are our norms. And so, like I said before, when I first came on, when I was still overseas, and we had to put Dad into bupa because he lost his leg and he needed that sort of care. But she was saying, you're seeing a lot more brown people go into homes, and that sort of, because it's a change in the sort of trend. Because usually you'd keep, well, if it's Māori or Pacific, they'd normally stay in the home, but then it also reflects the reality of people having to work, so not being able to be a caregiver, I think is kind of the point she was making. I was like, I get it, because again, if you're in a two-parent household, or you're not two incomes, sometimes you need three incomes, to be fair. So the kids are working as well, just to maintain the cost of living. And so that's kind of one thing that, sort of, when doing the healthy home stuff and going into the homes of these elderly, it's like, it's been aware of that sort of stuff. But then you see the loneliness too.
That's interesting. You said the change of culture, because it's sort of, you said we're like, see, I remember ages ago, and my parents, they always told us when we were kids, if you ever put us in the home, we're never going to forgive you. That kind of stuff, Like, someone's never do this kind of thing. I know this, don't do this. So we were brought up like that, but then, now, you're saying there's more brown people in these places, and I believe that. But it's not because we put them there, it's because the environment now. Hey, like you said, like,
it's very nice. I like
society now. It's hard to live now. The cost of living, you got to work. We never had the working poor now. Back then,
sure.
You can have the mum and dad can work and still be poor.
Survival on income.
We
were in Samoa, like I said, about a month ago, and my father-in-law, we had his 91st birthday at Mapuwhangalele, so the old people's home. About 10 years ago, we had his 80th at Mapuwhangalele. Now again, Mapuwhangalele is the only rest home in Samoa, right? And so the funny thing was, like, he's 91, he's been blessed, he's still very well physically there, mentally there. A lot of the residents in Mapuwhangalele, my auntie was in there as well, my nana sister, before she passed. But he was the oldest person there, but it was his birthday, so we put on a birthday celebration. He wants to have his party there again, so we praise Yah they were able to do that again. But when you looked at the people in the rest home, like, it's run by Catholic nuns, which is cool, and they do a great job, and there's a few Inkias and a few singers, and obviously the Samoan ladies. But the age, like, there were ones there like in their 60s, 70s, maybe a few in their lates, maybe 80s. But very early 80s. So again, when you look at the comparison between then, and these are, and sitting even just talking to them as well, and then these are Samoan elders in Samoa. So how is it that, like, here in New Zealand, we have, this life of we have to work and all that sort of stuff, but in Samoa, where there's villages, you're still putting people that have come from a village environment into a rest home like that. That kind of doesn't compute for me. You would think that there would be some sort of, they'll be able to stay there.
Is it lazy, do you reckon?
Potentially, yeah, possibly.
It's like when they have the shops open in the morning on Sunday to get your food for kongai. Like, you're not doing your umu outside your house. You're going to the town to.
Nice. Yeah, because
it's like that, eh? Like,
it's commerce, it's business, it's again, the cost of living, like SE levels are, there's different levels everywhere. Different levels of poverty, there's different levels of wealth. But even on the islands, like there's, if people don't have, we got Wi-Fi while we were there.
Oh yeah, there's Wi-Fi there.
Yeah, we got like a router, and so we put it in the house, but then we could take it with us. So we were walking around with this router. We had it in the car. We had a shout out to Carver Rentals. They hooked us up with wheels, and then they hooked up with what's the pizza place? Georgie's Pizza. Is it Georgie Pizza?
Giordano's on there's Georgie's on.
Yeah, Georgie. Yeah. So we again.
And Pungalei.
Yeah, up there. And so, but again, just like I said, the cost of living in Samoa, and again, very different now because you've still got, you want to have Wi-Fi, you want to have phones, you want to have Western. We went to McDonald's, right? And McDonald's is pretty expensive, but we still bought it because, they had aircon. But again, people are wanting to obtain the standard of living or think, that this is what the level they should be. Whereas, go back last century or 100 years or 50 years ago, people just, lived off the land, relied on themselves, maybe had more community, I don't know. Because where my partner's family home is, they live in Vaivasiuka. So it's a suburb. So it's not part of a village, it's a suburb, right? So there's the families from all over the place. And so, we still went to visit their family in Moliwhangoa and Whalewha. But again, this place of Vaivasiuka, again, is like a suburb. So you've got different families. So people can live on their own, but maybe they don't have sort of that's why it's important to know your neighbours, because then, especially because they're a bit older and that's their family home that they built there. So when they go there, they're finally they've been there for the mother and father, or they've been there for the last 4 months. Because they were dying to go during COVID, but they couldn't. And so now they've been there for the last 4 months. They come back, they can even get a pension there. Yeah, so even if you're not I think they've been eligible for it for a while, but they've never taken it up. But now that they've said, might as well. But again, Samoa, just like everywhere in the world, things change. Trends, culture, whatever you want to call it. All these things change, but how we look after each other is still very important, especially the people that raise us. And if it wasn't for them, we obviously wouldn't be here, literally. So
yeah, as long as the values still survive, the main thing.
Fa'aloalo is respect. Well, we respect our elders, right? Again, whether that comes from culture or that comes from the Bible, and Christianity has such a big part to play in Samoan culture. Values will change, but that respect and love and kioi no te wā, that is very important as well. Something we want to try and maintain, and we try and instill that in our kids, so when you have your conversation with your youngest who's at Auckland Grammar, hey, don't you put me in a rest home, eh? Don't forget, eh? And they go, no, it'd be good for you, Dad, because you get your own space. You can have your own podcast, have all the old people come and talk to you, and.
Well, some of these old people's homes are they don't look like old people's home anymore. Eh? It's just like apartments, or a little suburb where old people are. Yeah, when they probably can live on their own still.
That's the idea, right? Yeah.
They're just access to the ambulance to come quick or something out there.
Well, again, when my dad was in Bupa, just in Bupa Tasman Care, so you had where he was more for because he'd lost his leg, or for people that their health wasn't as good. They had that part of the rest home, but then they had the village, and the village part was where people, as long as they had a reasonable level of health, they had their own space. There was a koinga in there, his name was John. He was 104. So he was in where Dad was Dad's neighbour. So they'd always have interesting conversations. But his daughter, who was 75, still very healthy, she had her own place. So she was close. So even multiple generations, where you have a parent and then the child and in this case the lady's 75 because she's obviously old, she's got her own place in the village, whereas the old John was in the hospital part. Because
that's amazing. But they're still alive.
Well, yeah.
104.
Handy undies, mate. Handy undies. I was like, bro. And he was a nice man, and obviously seen a lot of things, and him and like I said, him and Dad used to have some interesting conversations, but they were both a bit deaf. What? What? And so it was kind of like that. But then you just, it's again, rest homes are, it's a kind of place where if you're there on a regular basis, I was for a little bit while Dad was still in there. You sort of get to you admire the staff that are in there because they have to be very patient. Because again, even the sweet, you might like see an ad and you got like a sweet old lady, but man, you hear some of their mouths in there, bro. They swear like sailors, if that's an old expression. But they're just or they have dementia or Alzheimer's, and all of a sudden, who are you? What am I doing here? My daughter's coming to get me. No, your daughter was the one that put you in here because you've forgotten who she was. And again, that speaks to just we are living longer, but we are suffering from conditions maybe at a younger age, like Alzheimer's, like dementia. So it's those sort of things to be mindful of, whether you're at home in society, but also the places that we have to sort of help those sorts of people. That we had a Tongan man who's just around the corner in Kopi Place. He'd managed to escape. Alzheimer's, managed to escape his daughter's place, ended up at our house, and because never met him before, we're trying to, my lea whakatonga is about that much, my lorelei, that's about it, haumageni. But we managed, he sort of turned up, and he, like I said, after we spoke to his daughter who had rung the police and they're trying to find him, and she goes, oh yeah, he doesn't know who I am, he doesn't remember me. I mean, I've been looking after him for the last 6 months, and he was with my other brother before. And it's just, it's hard. It's hard when you've got, people that are suffering from those conditions. And then again, like you said, all of a sudden, well, maybe it is easier if we just put them into care. Put them into care in these rest homes, or give them that space so that they can, but then you're leaving that responsibility to other people. Yeah. And so it's tough.
Yeah. At the same time, you're right about there's different levels there. Like you get the hardest one is dementia, because that's a real cruel kind of disease, eh? And if you have a parent who has it for a period of time, like they don't know anything about who you are, what they're doing there, there's like a different person there.
It'd be very hard to watch someone deteriorate, to forget things, then forget you.
Yeah.
Or like a husband and a wife. Like you imagine if you live to an age where you and your wife are sort of a bit older, and then they forget who you are. And then that sounds like isn't that The Notebook? Is that The Notebook?
I haven't seen it.
Okay.
I heard about it.
Ryan Gosling. Ryan Gosling and
I heard it was something like that. Like.
Yeah, that's spoiler alert. If you haven't seen the Notebook, then I've just spoiled it for you. But that's kind of the message of that movie. Yeah.
Yeah, because you're also right about old people. Like they're the ones with a lot of stories to tell. Like you get some good conversations. And I learned this recently with a guest I had. The Kazi, Charles Schuster.
Yes.
Yeah, because he talked about how we should be
work with elderly. Yeah.
Because they got plenty of stories, man. We should be
capturing them.
We should be capturing them, exactly. And that made me think, because we don't really, because he was talking about how we're all about mental health, the young people trying to blah blah blah. But then what about the old people?
Yeah.
Like we
want to capture those stories,
especially the story part of it.
Yeah,
because we have the ones that have the disease like dementia and all that kind of stuff, but then there's a lot that don't have it, and they can you can talk to them.
You can you can have those conversations, and that's why me and Pat, we started doing I can't remember what we mentioned last time, legacy. We called them legacy videos, where we'd sit down with an elder and basically capture their life story. And I did one for my dad. I'll use that example first. So Dad was still not that his brain ever went, but while he was okay, he basically gave his life story, and that was his muli mau at his service when he died. And so it was, it's I don't know, like I said, I've been to a few funerals in the last month, and while it's important as part of the grieving process that people come up and they share those stories about the one that's departed, I was really happy that we were able to have Dad give his own testimony and sort of talk about Samoa, talk about his siblings, talk about my nana and my granddad, talk about coming to New Zealand and just imparting those words of wisdom. And that was, Pat started doing those before I got back, and then we've done a few more since. Probably something worth trying to do again, because it's, there's funding and stuff, but just timing. But again, you don't even like the way we made them, like they were, because Pat's a videographer. They were done in a professional way. He's got all the equipment and good sound equipment, and you sort of sit down like we're doing now, just having a conversation. And the ones that we did do for other people, we got the kids to not interview, but have a conversation. And the only difference is that there was a camera. there's a camera and some lighting like you got here, just capturing that story, and then that's something that people can go back and listen to especially if they're missing their parents. So
But it's only private for them, for the family.
yeah, private for them. Yeah. I mean, I ended up putting my one on my Facebook page just because we had family overseas who wanted to see it, and because we also played it during because Dad passed away during COVID. So we had a tipene funerals, looked after us really well, and they streamed his service. Only 10 people allowed to attend, but during the service, like I said, and it was only like 10 minutes of him talking, but he gave his own moli mau, he gave his own testimony, and people were like, oh, it was really nice. I was like, yeah, well, that was, again, it's Pat's idea, and again, just wanting to capture those stories. I like what organisations like Pacifica Proud do, and there's a few others. They capture those stories, but I will say for the ones we did, and when we sat down and we just heard these stories, man, there's some out of it stories. Just learning about Samoa, and I guess the other thing with what, because like Pat, when he does our podcast, he would put in images, and that's why we called them legacy moving images, because we would get photos, and that was kind of my job, to scan the photos, and then I'd sit down with whoever it was, and then just, do you want your photo there? Where should we put this photo? Where should we put that photo? And then we'll put it in, and then when they'll watch it while they'll be talking about someone, well, then a photo would cut away to a picture of that person they're talking about, or a place. And so it's trying to use those skills and those talents that God's given us, but to capture those stories. Yeah, so I heard that with when you interviewed Shui. So I trained down at Rampage as well.
Oh yeah.
And whenever he comes down and coaches, like, oh, bro, too much cardio, bro. Let's just do our Olympic lifting. But yeah, no, like he said, there's a few things going on there. People like him and a few of us out here that are sort of working in that elderly space as well and trying to do a few things. So it's really just a matter of collaborating, and whether it's funding or sponsorship or whatever it is, it's just coming together.
Because I feel like we always forget that they've got a wealth of knowledge, and we tend to forget that until it's too late. Because I told you my old man, he passed away last year. He had cancer for 2 years. He was suffering for 2 years before he passed. But I always see my dad as like, he's like the typical Samoan dad. He doesn't talk, but he's the guy that
stoic.
Like even my mum, she's the judge and jury, and he's the executioner. But he doesn't say anything. He doesn't talk much. You
don't want him to talk, otherwise you know what's coming. Yeah.
So he's always like that. Until his last sort of years, he just opened up a lot. Yeah, I think he wanted to, because it was sad, because we were there around him to see him in bed and take his last breath. Yep. He didn't want to go. He did not want to go, and you could tell it. I could tell because he wanted to talk more. Yeah, I never seen him talk like the past. Yeah. As much like
opened up.
Opened up. Yeah.
I guess we all get a bit like that in our older age. I mean, you and I, we're mid-40s now, and maybe we don't have to act as tough as we used to because we're a lot more secure. But I guess again, when you're at that stage in life, and you realise, I'm not going to see. Well, again, if you're a person of faith, well, it's not the end. But if you're not, or whatever it is, just you miss. And that's the thing about going to funerals, like. When you go to, and again, Samoan funerals, or just a lot of them will be Christian funerals, like it's always that fine balance between it being a celebration because they're graduating and all that sort of stuff, but just being sad that you're not going to see them. And for some people, that's you're not going to see them for a while, or that's it, depending on what you believe, what happens when we die. And so it's, but I mean, I'm glad that you got to be there for Dad and experience that. I'm like you, so I saw Dad as well, before he passed. I mean, he couldn't eat towards the end, and then he sort of looked and then went, and then passed. And I was like, oh, okay. It was funny because I was sleeping, we had him at my sister's place, and so I was sleeping next to him on the floor because it was nice and comfortable. And then I think the morning that he did pass, like he was making a few noises, and then I'd gone to the toilet, morning time, and have a poo. And then my sister sort of said, I think he was waiting for you to come out of the toilet because when he saw you, and then he decided that was it. And so then we got to farewell him there. So it's a special thing to be able to, I think any loved one, but especially your parents, because they're the ones that bring us into the world, to be able to be there at the end. Again, if you think that's the end, but at the same time, it's like because some people, don't get to see their parents pass, or you'd want to be there. Just to hold their hand and say goodbye. So
So for me, like I'm so happy that you didn't see us go. You know, it's 'cause it's bad when parents see the kids go.
That's the worst.
It's supposed to be the other way
It's
around.
definitely supposed to be the other way
Yeah.
around. Yeah.
But then, you know, like the older we get, like we go to more funerals now. It's kind of like, man, what's going on? You know?
Well, people die, right? I think
Yeah. But I never,
statistically,
like sort of thought about it at all. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I guess because you're young, you know,
yeah.
you don't really think about that sort of stuff. You just see it in the movies and all that.
Yeah.
And then you grow older, then next minute they start dropping around you.
Yeah.
You know, family, friends, and
Death and taxes are the
Yeah.
uncertainties in life.
and then like I've just never thought about it until like you know after
Well,
passed.
losing your dad, and
Yeah.
that's all. I mean, I think I used this expression last time. We're just memories for our kids, right? We're memories for our kids, and then their kids will become memories as well. They'll become memories for their kids. So that's the circle of life. Is it circle of life? Wheel of Fortune. Kuna Matata. No, is that the same movie? I can't remember now.
That's Lion King.
There's Lion King.
Yeah,
There you go.
Yeah.
Again, it's like you and I, because we're in our mid-40s now and heading towards 50, where we'll probably have to do a few more checkups. And I mean, Pat just turned 50. So again, happy birthday, cuz, for turning 50. You're an old man. As you get a bit older, you get a bit wiser, but then things start sort of breaking and things start needing checking up, and like a car.
like for me, I'm being conscious now.
Yeah.
Exercising that now.
Yeah.
Eating properly.
Nice. Yeah,
Fuck.
good. Yeah.
Just
How's the lunchtime boot camps?
Oh yeah.
Sunday.
I went to one on Tuesday
Yep.
because I'm going Saturday one Friday. I can't go Friday one, but
Wow.
they've been good, eh?
Yeah.
Like it's good that my boss did that
Yep.
for us, and
Yeah.
like it's been consistent with the guys in the office that do it.
Yes.
Like there's always like 6 of us
Nice.
doing it in the car park. So
Yeah, that's the way.
yeah, it's pretty good.
Just got to move, eh? Just got to move, and like you said, just manage the eating a bit better and get the right amount of sleep. And
Yeah.
things are gonna break anyway, but at least that'll slow the process.
I texted you a few months ago about the social enterprise thing
Oh, yes.
because you were talking to me the last time you were on the podcast, and I was like, okay, that was interesting. And then I came across a place called Crescendo in Avondale, and they're like a music. They help kids with music.
Ooh.
They got their own
Yeah,
music
yeah.
studio and that.
Crescendo, nice.
Now they're a social enterprise as well.
Yeah.
So they were. I've heard that name before, and it was.
Yeah.
It was
So people
from
pay.
me.
So people pay to use their service, right? Or
They-
do they offer it for free? But they get funded.
They get funded. They
Oh,
offer it
okay.
for free. Yeah.
So they don't. So again,
but they can also sustain themselves too.
Yeah. So again, I think I made the point last time. Community enterprise is usually one that tries to offer their services, usually their service for free in the community, because they've got funding, say, from the government.
So there must
Or
be a
from-
community.
Yeah, so
Service,
but if they're selling lessons, for example, music lessons, then there is more of a social community. So it's not for profit. Right, they're not just I'm trying to make lots of money. You're not going to make lots of money doing that. But again, they still have to trade on their services, maybe. So yeah, or they could be a combination of both. Maybe they get funding too. Maybe they fund the instruments, for example, because there's lots of funding out there. Lots of different organisations that will fund you for certain things, depending on who you go to. But at the same time, maybe they charge for their lessons. So that's one way, a social enterprise, because it's still an enterprise, not the Starship Enterprise, but like an enterprise.
Yeah.
Enterprise, because it's commerce again. You have to trade. You have to, and to be viable, financially viable. You've got to sell services in that case. But if you're not going to do that, then that's where you get community funding, where you can go and apply for funding to help maybe with costs, but still charge people. So it's probably a bit of both. But that sounds good. I'll have to check them out. That'd be cool.
Yeah. And I was just interested about the whole system of social enterprise and community enterprise. Like as long as you're doing it for the community, and then you can sort of get some funding.
Well, but like Nielsen, when they started up Rampage in the car parks and all that sort of stuff, right? It just you start off as like a community, like you put on free boot camps or whatever it is in a car park, and then over time, because it gets really popular and you need to have a space to fund, then you go and look for funding to help do that, or then you go borrow money or whatever it is, and then you sort of become a bit of both. And I'm very happy to keep paying to train at Rampage because they got awesome coaches, good community. They just had their Rampage games over the weekend.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, are you going to keep? Nah.
You didn't go?
Nah, I leave that. Well, the olds got back from Samoa.
Oh yeah.
So I was like, oh no, we've got getting into whale and just mow the lawns and all that sort of stuff before they come back and kick us out. But again, if you look at the evolution of Rampage, similar, right? Started off doing boot camps free, offering a free, just like BBM, lots of organisations, starting off offering something free for the community, but then obviously because it's turned into bigger and bigger, they have to, now they charge for memberships. I'm happy to pay memberships to train there because it's a really good place to train. So,
yeah, because I was wondering how. Yeah, I was trying to get into it, like trying to figure out how to help the community in some way.
Yeah.
Even with doing the podcast and that.
Maybe offer experience or internships for people that want to get into podcasting, young people, go to schools.
Because what sparked that for me was when I had, what's his name? Fleming. Will Fleming.
Will Fleming, yeah. Yes.
And he was talking about how much money the government spends on mental health. And he believes that having conversations is the best way to battle mental health.
Yeah,
and
others.
And he doesn't see any of that around.
Yeah,
he doesn't see anything around. And he said, doing a podcast is the best way to help with that.
Yeah,
having conversations with anybody, talking about stuff,
giving people an opportunity to use their voice to talk about issues, especially for our young people, the issues that are very pertinent to them.
Yeah.
And so, I think that's something you should really consider, whether it's, offering people an opportunity to come and be part of the network, because you have a network, and it's if people are wanting to get experience in that space, and because you've already got your guests that come in and speak about mental health, but then maybe if there's people out there that need like an outlet or an avenue to come and do it. Or just get experience in podcasting. I mean, you're very experienced now and very professional in your setup, and the content that you guys put out is huge. Like, it's perfect. So
yeah, I'm glad. I'm happy about it.
Yeah.
But then I get when my conversation with Will when he came on, because he's got his own. I think he's got his own company that gets funded too. Like, it's called Campfire Studios in Emmerdale as well.
Yeah, nice.
So he does podcasts, and he's got funding to do to have kids do a podcast with the elderly. Like, he goes to schools and gets school kids to do podcasts with.
That's cool.
With older people.
That is that's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. And he's also got funding from Leva. He has conversations about suicide and that.
Yes.
With different people.
Yeah.
So, but he just when he was telling me about it, and he was telling me he believes that conversations is the big way to battle the mental health problem we have in this country, and a lot of the money should be going towards that instead,
Yeah, I mean, when you look at someone that will engage with a professional therapist or psychiatrist, that's essentially what they're doing,
It's
right?
the same thing, yeah.
They're having conversations. Yeah, it's like, you go see Jordan Peterson when he's not, in trouble. And, you're sitting down and he's having conversations with you and he's trying to help you. That's essentially what and again, there's a lot more detail to that and a lot more training, but your ability to have a conversation, articulate your own ideas, because often maybe when you're, you're suffering with depression or you're suffering with issues, you don't feel you can explain it, or you don't have the words, or no one to listen. Maybe that's half the battle. No one to listen to your plight. And then, then at the same time, you need people there to say, well, yep, okay, what else can we do? What's next? How else can we get over this? What do you lean into? Who do you believe in? All that sort of stuff. Here are some resources that you can go to. So I think there's a lot of merit in what Will's talking about there.
Yeah. And I kind of agreed with him, because I was thinking, because that's interesting. I never heard that before, right? And I was thinking, okay, because I've heard about all the money that they spend on mental health, and it's not doing anything. Well, I mean, that's a narrative I get from what's going on,
Yeah.
And then when he said that, I was like, you might have something,
I think that's
might have something.
That's very
and then I was thinking about the Empty Out the Clip podcast we do, and the people that come on and off and on, they come on, but they're different when they have a go. Yeah. They come on, they talk, and then they go, and then they say after, man, that was cool, I want to come back. Like, it sort of helped me with something
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it helped me. Like I expressed myself on the podcast,
Yes, yes.
and I sort of like I don't know, it sparked something. I'm like
Yeah.
I'm more confident or something like that.
No, no.
And I'm like, okay,
it's cool.
but I just, oh yeah, okay, sweet. But yeah, I probably don't acknowledge the meaning of that. Like there must be power in it. Like,
I think you're just coming to realize the potential, the empowerment that you give to people. Every person that you've brought on, and I include myself, because you let me rant for a couple of hours, talk and then circle back and stuff. But again, it is empowering because it's getting your thoughts out. I mean, it's one thing to think about something. It's been one thing to articulate it and get that out there, but for it to be received by other people. Like if I start saying stuff that doesn't make sense, you're gonna go, "What are you saying?" Huh? Or something doesn't quite add up. But again, when you can verbalize yourself and explain whatever it is, something, then that can be very liberating. I think, and maybe that's again because you're providing the avenue for that, and these people that are coming on, that's what their experience. And when you think about maybe people's backgrounds, maybe they've never had a voice, like I said before, haven't had a voice, maybe they've come from bad backgrounds, suppressed, all that sort of stuff, repressed, whatever it is. All of a sudden, actually, no, I can actually articulate myself. I remember at school, whenever they would it would be time for speeches, English, it'd be speech time. Everyone have their cards ready. I could never, I'm not the most articulate person, but I always struggled with the cards. Because I'd be thinking something and then I'd try and marry it up with the card, but then I'll just try and talk, and then just how much time have I got left? Oh yeah, 2 more minutes to talk. Okay, blah 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 blah. And then, but everyone's a bit different. So I think I think it's a good thing that like I said before, what you're doing here is a community service. Because you're bringing out stories that might not get out there. It's allowing people to connect with other organisations, like Will's organisation, mentioning them, saying, actually, I'll go see these guys because I'd like to do that sort of stuff as well. That's what community service, that's what Whakukua is, Whatutua. It's our ability to serve, but we need to serve using the gifts that we've been given. And for you, one of them is podcasting. So, got to keep doing it.
And when I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking, man, because I only do it for the love of doing it. I never thought about it was like a mental health thing. Like I never got the reaction. Like I never thought the reactions would be powerful. Like that. I just get these little bits of information from people that come in and talk about it, and I'm like, okay, I didn't see it that way, and then it makes me appreciate this podcast more because it's a continual learning thing.
It's an evolution, and I think, and what I appreciate that like you and I, because we're very similar, similar interests, all that sort of stuff. But the one thing that's always stuck with me is that how we talked about seeing an evolution in terms of people's thinking. So, for example, there were things that we talked about in our first podcast, in our second podcast, maybe third or fourth podcast, and things that we've learnt along the way that we can keep sharing. Because though it's not always the origin story, like I think it was the last way you put it, that's important because it shows that we can talk about things that are happening around the world and bring in our experiences. But it's good to see that there's a progression with people because we progress and then eventually we regress and then we die. So it's like it's nice to sort of stuff that gets captured as well, and that's kind of the other thing as well. Like what you're capturing now. 100 years' time or 50 years' time, whatever it is, these conversations people will be able to listen and go, that's what these New Zealand-born, Samoan men used to think sort of in the 2012 or 2020s. That was what they were talking about. Those are kind of the issues they were talking about then. Oh, well, maybe they've got some similar issues by the time they hear that as well. But
yeah, you just reminded me about, I've been keeping up with the election stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Have you?
Yeah, I mean, it's... well, a month away, or not even a month away, not too far away. I was listening to Kerry Woodham on talk radio this morning, and she was talking about the traffic light system. That's one of their policies around the traffic light system, whereby, again, if people aren't meeting their obligations, they're going to categorise it and then penalise them. And a lot of the people that were ringing up were talking about, well, hang on, if people that are on benefits, that are abusing benefits, it's costing the economy about $3 billion. And what about all the white collar crime that's costing probably 2 to 3 times that? And so again, it's these points, these talking points, especially come around election year, where people are trying to find something to talk about and get behind. Probably the interesting thing though has been following old Winston Peters. He's made a few interesting comments.
He's come up with some weird ones.
Wow, Indigenous Māori and all that sort of stuff. And, although I guess when it comes to politics, and I guess Māori as well, being Māori myself, it's interesting because you've sort of got you've got your Māori out there that are in there doing their thing, and sort of on one side you've almost got the Mahutas and Debbie Ngaware, Paka. And then you've got Marama Davison, whose dad was, what's his name? He was on Play School. He was on Wairarara. I can't believe I've forgotten his name.
Oh.
Ngāwari Paratene.
Yeah.
Hold on to your dicks. Remember that? In Wairarara. But you've kind of got like those ones. And then you've got sort of, Winston Peters, David Seymour. Because he's a percentage Māori, so you can count him as Māori. And then you've got Dr. Shane Ritchie from National. And so you've sort of got these different, depending on who you talk to and sort of how you're politically aligned, you'll either bag or sort of credit those particular ones. For Māori, if I'm talking Māori politicians. And I remember back in, in Foreshore and Seabear when Te Pāti Māori sort of started up, and it was Peter Sharples and Tarea Naturia, and, we hikoed up and down Queen Street and all that sort of stuff. Obviously, Te Pāti Māori is a little bit different now. But the interesting thing, where I was going with my point was that I was listening to a panel because Dave Latele, BBM, he's supporting Te Pāti Māori, which is cool. They had a panel talking about Māori health, and one of the speakers on there from Te Pāti Māori was talking about there being 20% of the New Zealand population now being Māori. Now, unless I heard that wrong, but I was like, 20%? Did he just say there's 20% Māori? And then I was like, what? And then I heard the term ethnic mobility. So this idea of, and maybe, because when you look at stats now, like Māori, from the stats I've seen more recently, they're not 20%, they're probably more like maybe 15%, sort of closer to that, right? But there's a category in there that talks about ethnic mobility, where there's people that they identify as Māori or they stop identifying as Māori.
But they got Māori blood.
Maybe, yeah. So it's interesting because maybe those numbers sort of chop and change depending on how people are feeling at the time. Maybe if they're saying that, I identify as Māori, but then at the same time, if you identify as Māori, but you're not Māori, can you be Māori?
Right.
Are we going down the whole?
We're going down that whole.
Are we going trans-racist sort of? I identify as Chinese even though I'm not Chinese, but
I knew that was going to come up. I knew that was going to be a thing soon. If everyone's going to say, now I'm a woman now, now I'm a male now, okay, now I'm black American now, now I'm Chinese.
Yeah. Because I feel it, right? I mean, I was born on the wrong body. That's the argument. And again, like you and I, we've had these conversations around transgender stuff, and again, we don't hate on them. We love on them because our concern is more over young people cutting off body parts. Not getting, trying to heal the mind before you cut the body. But again, it's kind of the road it's going down in terms of how people identify. Crazy. But
it just gets complicated. I can't keep up. I just don't keep up with it now.
Yeah, no, it's
it just gets weirder to me every time.
Well, there's lots. I don't know how many genders are up to now, but I think there's hundreds. So depends who you talk to. Depends who you talk to and how people identify. So, yeah, all you can do is you try and be respectful of people. And like I work at AUT, I do research out of there, and yep, it's and Damon Salesa, who's the in charge there. Very they've got like a pride pledge, which I think basically means is about supporting LGBTQ plus. Cool, okay, that's cool. And he obviously endorses that. But you can have conversations with people on campus as well, and sort of. But when you talk to them, you're just like, oh yeah, I don't know. There's just something not quite computing there. Yeah. Again, there's maybe other issues going on, but just when you're struggling for identity, I guess in one sense, when you sort of don't know where you're from or don't know where you're going, maybe. To be fair, though, a lot of young people coming through university as well, so that could be part of it too. Trying to find themselves. You're trying to find yourself.
Yeah.
Whereas like you and I, we're old, like we've got kids, we've been around for a while. I'm sure in 10 years' time we're in our mid-50s, and then 10 years hopefully after that in our mid-60s. You'll be like, oh, look at these 45-year-olds. Oh, look at these young people who don't know what you're talking about. And that's what Winston's talking about. If I was to take it back to politics, here's someone that's been part of government for how many governments? Maybe 4 or 5. He's been the kingmaker so many times. And he's a good example.
He's been in and out.
He's been in and out. And he's a good example of, someone that's been in government and implemented things like Gold Card and Tomorrow Schools, all that sort of stuff, things that are supposed to help people. But I will say he resonates with a lot of, including Māori people, as maybe the older generation, when he talks about how you don't want to make excuses for yourself. You want to, you can keep banging on about colonization and how we were wronged in the past, all that sort of stuff. But there comes a point where you have to just take responsibility for yourself. And I think, when I was listening to him with Moana Jackson, no, not Moana Jackson, Moana, from one on the More Hunters. Yeah, she had a nice conversation with him, and that, and even Julian Wilcox. And again, these are Māori in the media, and he's just saying, you guys don't know what you're talking about. And questions around tino rangatiratanga and all that sort of stuff. And
you know Moana, she doesn't age, eh?
No.
She looks like that when I was a kid, like singing that song.
She's the New Zealand Cher, right? The Cher,
yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that's who she is. Beautiful woman, tino tahua. But no, it's cool that, again, to see her, sort of now in that political sphere having conversations with people. But it's, Winston, it'll be interesting. My first cousin, my auntie Ruth and my uncle Savali, I told you about last time, moved to America, really wealthy now. They named their second son Winston after Winston Peters.
Oh, really?
Back in the 90s. That's because he was so popular back then. Yeah. And here we are, 2023. Yeah, he'll be kingmaker again, all that sort of stuff. He'll go into government, and I guess his thing is talking about people that are experienced, or he's experienced, right? So he's saying, look, I can help. What's their slogan? Get the country back on track, or get the country back? I always get it confused.
Something like that.
Get it back on track. I don't know, something like that. But anyway, so because he's experienced, he's saying, here I am, an older man and an older statesman that's that has experience helping to run this country. And his thing as well, Labour and Greens haven't run the country into the ground, so now you need the adults to come back into the room and start getting the country back on track. Obviously, he's going to have to do that with Luxon and maybe even Seymour. So yeah, I guess we'll see.
When he came out of that Indigenous thing, like it was funny because I was just having a conversation with a workmate about that, but before he brought it out. So it was funny to me when I heard him. I was like, "Oh man, I was just talking about that."
Yeah,
today at work. Yeah. So we actually looked it up. I actually looked it up.
Okay.
So the UN has a definition of Indigenous, and it's the people that were on the land first. So, isn't it?
Yeah.
But he's saying they came from another land onto this land, but there was no one here.
Was there?
So were they the first?
How do we know?
Were they the first people?
How do we know whether there were anyone on the land when they got here?
Yeah, but he's comparing it to the Aborigines in Australia. Well, of course, they were there for thousands of years.
Thousands of years.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard kororo from some of our kaumātua and kui up north that talked the term tangata whenua wasn't really for the Polynesians that came. It was for the people that were already here.
Yeah.
I mean, we weren't here hundreds of years ago when Kupe arrived. Aotearoa, land of the long white cloud. Is it possible that there were people before here? Maybe.
So is that what he's saying?
Pretty much. Well, in that context, I did him when he was speaking with Julian Wilcox. He was talking about the term Indigenous as defined by. Actually, that's in that case. That's what he's talking about, because the United Nations have defined that as being Indigenous people. I think his point was that again, Polynesians came here. Māori culture developed out of that, what we call Māori today. And Māori just means normal person, or a person is different. So it's like, Polynesians came, started this culture, and what we see today as Māori, what we define as Māori in the language. But again, he's talking about their origins. I mean, because I watched that series with Scotty Morrison about origins, and he went to Easter Island and all those other places, and then met all these people, and trying to find Hawaii, wherever Hawaii is. I'd assume that's in Hawaii, or maybe somewhere in Tahiti. But again, it's I think I made the point last time when we talk about I guess that the shared DNA that Māori and the relationship that Māori and Pacific have is because we have the same tupuna, we have the same ancestors, we came from the same place. We just sort of got off the boat at different times. Some of us got on the boat, came here centuries ago. Some of us stayed and then got on a plane and then came centuries later. So, yeah.
So is he saying it's not indigenous because we don't know who was there before?
Possibly, yeah. Or more so just, I don't think he's a fan of the UN because he didn't, I think when Peter Sharples was, again, if I remember back to that conversation, it was Peter Sharples who basically went to the UN and signed New Zealand up to UNDRIP. And that's the UN's indigenous rights, the rights of indigenous people. That again, and when you think about that sort of stuff, again, it's supposed to be a good thing, right? Because you're supposed to, because indigenous people, if we're talking Māori, if we're talking Aboriginals, Native Americans in America, they're the ones that have been suffered the most. And so the United Nations, being the body that it is, this global body, is saying, well, then we need to recognise the rights of these people because they've been here the longest. And so yeah, I guess in that sense, he's like, maybe he's disputing that.
Because in Australia they got that yes/no vote,
Yeah.
for their indigenous.
Yeah.
Which is another interesting.
Wow.
It's timing, like it's like off the back of that.
Just worldwide. Worldwide, you're seeing you're seeing the UN and its influence, obviously, because it's such a big body and everyone buys into it and they all want to try and make things happen. It's somewhat coordinated that year. But again, you want to recognise people from where they're from and give people opportunities. But at the same time, we don't want to make excuses for people to just stay, a bit like going back to the benefit stuff. People that are in a long time on the job seekers benefit for ages, right, when they don't see any incentive for going into full-time work. Well, should the rest of us as taxpayers be paying for them to basically sit on the benefit? And those are the election issues that keep coming up, right? And that's what people like. That's what people get calling to talk radio to talk about. Oh, I should have been paying my taxes for these guys to stay on the bloody benefit. Blah, blah, blah. So it's
I think we're coming to a crossroads with that kind of stuff in society, because you've got the PC stuff, then you've got, like, if we talk about indigenous, we've got the UN influence coming in, and we've got corporations getting involved with, trying to be,
sounds like fascism.
Trying to be righteous sometimes,
Well,
and
the EIs and the SDGs, yeah.
And it's kind of like we're still trying to figure it out,
Yep.
Until it settles down.
Yeah, it's have you seen those stories?
Because when we talked about like how like indigenous and all that try to be fair, I think it's deep, because it's a system. It's a system we gotta.
That's systemic, yep.
It's a system that's the dominant thing that needs to change, or it's not catered for us, or for indigenous.
Not catered for everyone, but again, if we think about, because Western
but it's catered for the Western society.
Well, yeah, Western is right, because it's built on capitalism and this idea that if people, and that's what the American dream was, or even the New Zealand dream was, work hard, regardless of wherever you've come from, but if you work hard, you have an opportunity to do well. That's why I always use the example of my auntie and uncle in America, came from nothing, went to America very wealthy now.
So what is that? What is that? I mean, what is that? That is something, right?
That's meritocracy. That's that idea of the people that work the hardest, or basically the people that work the hardest.
So
work
it works
the rewards. It works, but not for everyone, and that's the point. Because we want to move the PC people or the woke people. They want to basically place where everyone gets the same, or everyone's entitled to earn the same, but people put in different levels of effort. People work harder than other people. That's human nature, and again, that's representative of how you've been raised, your upbringing, morals and values, all that sort of stuff. So again, I mean, if we lived in like a socialist or even a communist country where everyone got the same, but everyone sort of lived at this level, well, then people would be like, well, this isn't enough. We need to. That's why we jump on a boat from Cuba to America. That's why we walk across from South America to America. That's why we get on boats and go to Australia. People, if the system isn't working for them, they'll go and look for that opportunity. But there's more opportunity in capitalist countries if people are willing to work, and hopefully they don't get screwed, because people get screwed all the time, right? So it's again having that opportunity to go and work and have a better life. And that's what, our parents would have done when they came to New Zealand and settled here, and then we were born. They wanted to give us that opportunity. It's the same narrative, the same story for any migrant. They'll go to a place where they can find opportunity. But there's no perfect system, I think, is probably the big thing, where everyone's going to, be into. I mean, even the organisation I work for, my boss, Kyle Parker, he's a big greenie. So we always have good, interesting conversations around climate change and stuff. But again, for him, it's like everyone's entitled to a nice home. Is everyone really entitled to a nice home? Some people don't like to look after their homes. People end up in emergency housing or whatever it is. So, you can offer the people, you can try and provide people with things, but not everyone's going to look after everything. Some people are just, and again, it comes down to, respect for property rights and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, we're lucky in New Zealand because we have an opportunity to live in a place that's, free, pretty free. And if you work hard, like you did all your training and out there in the world, but at the same time, not everyone takes advantage of an opportunity. So that's kind of the message you want to get across, especially to young people. Just say, yep, there's stuff that's happened in the past. There's some, whatever it is, stuff that's happened to you, even to your family. Are you going to let that be an excuse for you to stay in poverty or, not achieving anything? Or are you going to say, no, actually, I'm going to go and do this. I'll give things a go.
Because, I've been thinking about this whole lot now, especially with the elections. It's coming up and that. But, when I see the National Party do the debates and Labour and then ACT and Green and all that, like, I always think, man, I couldn't be with one. I couldn't be in a party because I couldn't go all in
with particular
with
policies.
a particular, because I look at them all and I think, okay, I'll grab one of each, the best ones of each, and that's my best party to vote for. But I can't,
Yeah, and I guess that's why you had MMP come into place, right? So we used to have first past the post. Basically, the party that got the most votes got into government. But now you have multiple parties being able to rule. And that's why, again, like Winston and all these other these coalition governments that have been, during our lifetime, especially when we were teenagers, probably onward, you've always seen these
students. We got MMP.
Yeah, we got MMP,
it was
right?
We want equal votes and all that.
It's an interesting system because there's 120 seats in the parliament, and you got to make the 5% threshold, and then X number of seats go wherever you sort of go. But interesting, obviously, with this election, is what you've seen is all these minor parties sort of come out of not nowhere, but a lot of them in reaction to what happened during COVID and what happened with the Wellington protests. And I've got a few mates that are running for some of the minor parties, and it's been interesting because obviously there's maybe 4 or 5 of them, even Brian Key and Sue Gray. I mean, obviously, I think they just had a protest or something, but, they're one of them, Vision NZ, Alfred Ngaro, New Zealand, I think it's New Zealand, NZ Loyal, which is Liz Gunn, and even Steve Oliver. Steve Oliver had a lot to do with his impact here out west. So there's all these sort of parties that have sort of come running. But if they sort of just came under one banner, they'd probably get a bit of representation in the next government.
Wasn't there one guy that was trying to do that? He was trying to...
Well, Billy Takahika tried to do that in the last election with his Advance NZ party, but that didn't work out. And so,
But he was a bit extreme too.
Wow.
Controversial.
Well, I follow a lot of his... I still follow his stuff because, again, a lot of the stuff that he talked around lockdowns and came true. Especially for us that didn't get vaccinated. But again, and he just finished a court case where he was, getting done for, he organised a protest and then basically, had it all sorted out with the police, and then they arrested him for breaching the COVID lockdown. Hang on, you just gave us permission to... But anyway, it'll be interesting to see what happens, because I think by splintering all these little parties, splintering off into their little party groups, they're going to lessen the chance of any of these people that have those sorts of views getting into Parliament. Now, some people might say, well, that's probably a good thing because, River of Filth. Is that what Michael Wood called them? River of Filth down at them. It's like, oh, yeah, is that right? But it's like, well, a lot of those people, if we still live in a democracy, then people should be able to voice their opinion and be able to talk about issues that have affected them. And again, like I talked about last time I was here, I got a lot of friends that went to those protests. They didn't go to the protests because they were anti-vaccine. they went to the protest because they have friends and family that were affected by the vaccine, and so that's why they went. They were like, and it's interesting because there's
You had a lot of different camps that went down.
yeah,
There was different.
It was
views.
not all just anti,
yeah.
and you're going to get your anti-government ones and all that sort of stuff, anarchists and all that sort of stuff. But again, people wanted to be heard, and I think that's probably what's there's a documentary movie called River of Freedom, which has been out at the movies, and obviously I heard you guys do your review of Sounds of Freedom.
Was it that one?
No, different one. No.
River
This is River Freedom, and this was a documentary about the convoys. So before the protest, so they sort of tracked and then interviewed people. Billy put out one called The River of Lies, which is more of a documentary type thing. And so there's these movies and documentaries that are coming out now that can look back, I guess, retrospectively and sort of say, well, this is what we were talking about then, this is what happened, and here we are now. And so, yeah, I haven't seen either of those documentary films, but I'll probably have a look just to sort of see what they're talking. I mean, a lot of the stuff I already know, but it'll be interesting to sort of see if any of that sort of comes to sort of mainstream attention. Because when people sort of see that information, and I think that's why, a lot of these minor parties will garner support because people saw what happened during the lockdowns and all that sort of stuff, and they're like, well, that didn't make sense. They're like, well, we need to change the government. That's why a lot of them will vote against the Greens and against Labour. And they'll probably vote for National, or they'll put their vote into these smaller parties who probably won't get in because they're too splintered.
Right.
So it's like, okay.
Is that a way to just waste your vote on purpose because you don't like anyone else?
I guess so. Yeah. I mean, you'd want to, you want to pick. I guess you want people to go into Parliament and to government that are going to make a difference, and that's why I guess the New Zealand First and National Party are trying to campaign on these slogans about getting the country back. But that seems to be the slogan every time. Those on the right, because it's like left gets into government and they crash the car or they sort of drive the economy down. Although, to be fair, COVID did have a big impact. And then the blue team comes in and basically says, I will get everyone back on track. And then the blue team go a bit too far, and then, they're not kind enough. And so the red team comes in, or the green team comes in, and they say, no, we need to pull it back a bit. For those people that believe that democracy is just an illusion and that they're all actors, it kind of makes a bit of sense. But that's another conversation.
It's like, it's almost like when you get sick of them, it's time to vote them out.
Pretty much. Yeah. It's pretty much.
It's not about, you can say whatever they, because I personally, watching it all, I think Labour's going to lose there. Just the fact that, people just had enough with the COVID stuff. And unfortunately, even though they can say good things like, oh no, the economy is pretty good, no one cares. They just think about, man, you did a bad job. Just did a bad job with COVID the second time around, and
sure,
they just do it. It's like, kind of like what happened to Trump, how he got in, because they were just, because the other one was bad. The woman.
Oh, Hillary Clinton.
She was bad.
I mean, there's definitely I heard she's even trying to come back for this round. So
is she?
Yeah, there's people talking about her wanting to come back, because I don't think Biden will. There's a good chance probably Biden won't run. They're probably trying to replace him. It's just, when you talk about elder abuse, I mean, that guy on stage is just, you can tell he's not all there. And they're talking about, and trying to prop him up. Whoever's pulling the strings for that guy, it's like, mate, just let him retire or let him rest, because, he clearly isn't there. And when you're in that sort of role, it's very stressful. I reckon, have you heard of Gavin Newsom? Gavin Newsom is the California governor. I reckon they'll probably put him up for the Democrats. And
oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then probably Trump will end up in prison because, they got him on all those charges. Yeah. And then probably, is it Ron DeSantis from Miami? Maybe that'll be who knows? That's American politics though. It's just a big show.
Yeah.
And we kind of had, I didn't watch the leaders debate with Luxon and Chris Hipkins, but I heard that.
The first one?
Yeah, I haven't watched any of them, to be honest. But it's just like, it's that style of politics where it's, people going back and forth and trying to win popular opinion. But again, if government should be about implementing policies and finding ways to help people, to look after people, because again, politicians, the government, they're public servants. We pay them. They're not there because they're super special. They're willing to put their hands up and say, hey, I'm willing to, try and do this, and this. Vote for me and I'll get in and try and do it. But that doesn't always seem to work out with politicians. They say one thing and then they have to sort of chop and change, which we've seen a lot. whether it's the red team or the blue team or the green team, whatever, they have to sort of chop and change their things. So
I find them really, really bad. Like the two Chris's, they're really bad. Like I can't. Yeah,
hard to get behind them. I think
it is.
I think they have the same level of popularity, don't they? I think they're like 27%. Again, polls, not that polls are always indicative of what's going to happen, but even both of them have very similar approval ratings, I think is the term.
Yeah.
Even though National is more popular right now. And again, a lot of that comes down because people have had enough of Labour.
See, the problem I had is I hear the narratives, but I don't believe it. I don't know if it's true or not.
Oh, sure.
And that's the problem.
Yeah.
Like, I know what they're saying. Like, I know Chris Luxon, was talking about how this you can't even move in this country anymore. If you work hard, you're not going to go anywhere. And I'm like, okay, that makes kind of sense. And then, on Labour side, they say stuff that makes sense too. But then I'm thinking, okay, it makes sense. But is it true?
Yeah. And I guess that's where hindsight and time sort of comes in. So yeah, I guess whatever happens next month, there'll be lots of change, or there'll be changes. I mean, like yourself, I can see National coming in, forming a coalition with ACT, and probably in New Zealand first, or maybe they'll be enough. Maybe they'll have enough support to just go on their own. But either way, the next few years under whoever it is will everyone still be trying to recover from COVID and trying to implement all this other stuff that's trying to get our economy out of the, but I guess that's like economics and commerce, and the economy itself, it just ebbs and flows up and down, recession and all that sort of stuff. So it's like, okay,
so what have you heard? Do you know the truth?
The what, sorry?
Do you know the truth of what's happening in this country? Are we doing bad or are we doing good? Or?
Depends who you talk to. I mean, again, cost of living. Like, cost of living is high. It's extremely high. Everything's expensive because, when COVID hit, places got shut down and businesses got shut down. People lost their jobs. They printed a lot of money, which again means there's more money in the money supply, which brought the value down. Worldwide, everyone's trying to sort of get their countries back on track and try and look after their people. And and again, the tinfoil hat people will be saying, well, no, there's just one big government and they're just controlling and moving pieces, and just people just go along. It'll be interesting to see what sort of happens when you look at it, sort of what's happening in the world. Like, you've seen, like was I watching today, this coalition that's forming between China and some of the other countries, and Russia. At that level, you've got all these. They call it the well, I was going to say New World Order. That's an old term, but just now that America's so weak, and Biden inherited quite a weak country, and what he's done has been pretty silly. But because America is starting to lose its place as the superpower, you're seeing all these other countries emboldened to say, oh yeah, no, we're going to be the new superpower. And how does that affect us here in New Zealand? Well, again, if our allies are like America and Britain and USA, and they sort of start to fall by the wayside, then we have to align ourselves with sort of the Chinese and the Russians. We talked about China and Samoa. I know the last time we chatted, and it's like, well, they can be pretty ruthless, especially the Chinese. We haven't have too much to do with the Russians, but just it's those things governments have to be, like here in New Zealand, we have to be aware of what's happening with the bigger countries, because then whatever government goes in next month, well, they're going to be the ones dealing with the bigger countries, the bigger superpowers.
Because isn't China our biggest export?
Export, yeah. We expect a lot of stuff to export. So we need to have a good relationship, and maybe even under Labour, it's still a pretty good relationship, but under National probably be even better for China, not for us. Probably for us, it means, we're going to lose money and we're going to offer more homes to be sold. And then that's when New Zealand will get mad and say, oh, no, let's go back to the red team. So just keeps going in a big circle. So they keep the drama going. It's like something like a show on Netflix or something.
Because I heard the whole thing about, how China was threatening to invade
Taiwan.
What are we going to do if that happens? Because America will be, hey, you better stop, put an embargo on them.
Oh, I'll be pretty annoyed look how much money that the US has put into the Ukraine. I heard a figure to 134 billion.
Oh, it's Cold War again.
Pretty much. But then, what about the Hawaiians who, they're flying Lahaina? How much money will they give into them? All the people that are suffering in their own country. Why? Again, if you're trying to, proxy for Russia and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's so much money. So much money to be sending to a country that, I guess they just, they want to defend them for whatever reason they want to defend them. Crazy.
Speaking of use of money, man, I've been listening to this podcast called A Piece of Silver.
Oh, yeah.
Have you heard it?
No, that's okay.
It's an RNZ podcast. It's only a 6-episode one.
Yeah.
But it's around the All Blacks, the NZR and Silver Lake deal.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That'll be interesting to listen to.
That is
what happened there?
That is, man, you should listen to it, man. It's good, man. It's a 6-part, but it's only up to episode 4.
Yep.
So it's still ongoing.
Yeah, true.
Man, that should be a movie. That should be one of those movies like
They'll probably make it into a movie.
Yeah, it should be a movie because man, it was drama. Because it goes into like how you probably read in the Herald how they were having that war, the Players Association versus NZR.
Yeah.
Man, they go into that and it was like war, man.
Yeah, it would have been a good deal, but no.
Yeah,
people get greedy and all that sort of stuff. Did you hear about John Olomu's wife?
Oh yeah, I saw that. She said no to the documentary.
Some sort of documentary. Yeah.
She's got the rights to all the
his image and stuff. Yeah.
The image property.
Yeah. Well,
see, that came up in the podcast too, the image property thing.
Yes.
Because
so many of those players, surely, how does that work?
So apparently, the All Blacks as a brand, they own the name All Blacks. They own the jersey. Yes. They own the logo.
Yeah.
The players own their own image.
Okay. Yeah.
But if they don the jersey, then it's 50-50.
Ah, okay.
But if they don't, they can't use without the without getting the 50-50 split. Yeah. Okay. So it's like, she can't if
there's some sort of endorsement that comes out of it.
Yeah. So like if she's got the rights to
his image, his likeness,
and
his image,
she wants him to wear the All Blacks jersey, then All Blacks get 50% of whatever he earns. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah. Something that involves lawyers.
Yeah. So that was the biggest thing that NZR missed out with the Silver Lake deal, because they didn't go back to the constitution when they started the Players Association.
Oh, there you go.
They made that deal. So it was a binding. Was a binding thing.
Yeah.
So if NZR wants to use the players, they can't unless. So because the Silver Lake deal was about Silver Lake buying a percentage of the commercial part of the All Blacks.
Of the All Blacks.
You can't use the commercial part unless you have the players.
Yeah.
Otherwise, and they failed to recognize that. NZR failed to recognize that. So when the Players Association came, hey, you didn't tell us anything about this. But you can't have it anyway because we've got the rights to our own image.
Yeah.
You can't have us until we're in the deal.
Yeah.
So
that makes a lot more sense then in terms of why there was such a kerfuffle.
Yeah. But that's just interesting. It's like, I don't know if it's greed or they want to.
Definitely a bit of greed. On their part. So you got to be very careful when it comes to all that sort of stuff now. Once the game went professional and all that sort of stuff, here we are. And so again, it provided avenues and opportunities for the players to become wealthy and to become rich and to look after their families. But at the same time, all the commercial imperatives, all that sort of stuff sort of kicks in, and it's like,
But it's a cool podcast. You should have a listen.
Have a listen to that.
They talk about how All Blacks, they wanted to leave the world rugby and go on their own.
Oh, back in before professional. Yeah,
they thought this deal with Silver Lake will allow them to do that.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. They're hoping the Silver Lake deal will allow them to cut ties of world rugby and go on their own. Like, so they said All Blacks wanted to be the IPL of rugby.
Really?
Yeah.
And what? Just have competitions here?
Have their own competition, like
so like Super Rugby Aotearoa was
like be the NFL of rugby.
Ah, okay. Oh, interesting.
And not have Australia there in South Africa there.
Well, you've seen what's happened with South Africa not being around, and there'll be a lot of Wallaby supporters at the moment, sort of, not too happy.
So that's bad for Zanza. I think Australia been out.
Oh, is there still a Sansa?
Yeah.
Oh, it's still going. Oh,
Yeah, still Zanza.
oh okay.
Even though South Africa's not in the Super Rugby, but they're still in the Rugby Championship.
Oh, so in the championship. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah. Those changes definitely had a big impact in terms of just that competition, and then I guess the flow-on effect for maybe some of the newer teams like Ndrua and all that sort of stuff. Although they did well and they're doing even better now in the World Cup, right? Just when you have a bit like the Pumas did when they were sort of playing together in terms of the results. Just the caliber of athlete at that level. There's a lot of very similar, but a lot of it comes down to just time together. Like any team, you got to have time together. But it's good to see them doing well.
Because I think since the last World Cup, Samoa's only played 12 games.
Is that what they said? Oh,
Yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah.
That was like 4 years ago. Within 4 years, they've only
Within
played 12
4
games.
years. Wow.
Whereas-
so 3 games. Oh, wow. Yeah,
Whereas most of the Tier 1 teams played 12 games already in 1 year.
Yeah, time
So,
together.
yeah.
Yeah. So they're playing, and it's a shame. I mean, obviously, even Samoa and Tonga haven't had great results. I guess Samoa still got a chance. I can't remember.
Yeah, they got Japan.
They got Japan and England. No,
Japan and England. Yes.
Japan and
yes.
England.
Yes.
Wow, yeah.
So they have to win.
Yeah. I guess it'll
Yeah.
be not an impossibility, but
Yeah.
England will be very tough.
I mean, it seems real. It seems because I don't know if we watched Super Rugby this year, but compared to what NRL has been offering, it's been like a mediocre competition now. But
Oh, sure. Yeah.
rugby union's gone down. I think.
Well, I
A
guess the success of the Warriors this year definitely meant eyeballs on this side of the Tasman were definitely a lot more glued to the league.
Yeah. Well, we had the Rugby League World Cup last year. I started from that.
Oh yes, rugby league.
To Samoa.
To Samoa, that's
Then
right.
Origin comes around, and we're like hyped for that.
Yep.
And now with the Warriors,
Yeah.
Mm.
I guess you had the Women's Rugby World Cup as well, and that was pretty popular, and it was a good spectacle as well. Even the Football World Cup as well, for women's sport as well, which was good. But yeah, it just seems the league's on a bit of a high at the moment, and I think unless the All Blacks win the World Cup, this one's going to probably continue to sort of become less popular. Bit like the netball. Do you see the netball? See New Zealand lose to England? England B, I think it was.
Yeah.
And then
England B.
Yeah, it's kind of like the was it Liana Leota is the ex-Silver Fern who coaches England now, and she's saying he's put over like young players just to sort of give them a go. Kind of the parallel between them and the Wallabies, right? Like the Wallabies, but Eddie Jones brought all the young players to have a go. So I don't know who's probably feeling worse, but I guess I think the coach, Silver Fern's coach, was talking about how we're starting to see a decline in netball because everyone's going to play football and basketball. I said, well, basketball I kind of get. Football's a bit more recent. So why they ought to sort of determine the more recent, because they didn't have a great World Cup, I think it was, finished 4th or whatever it was. So I was like, okay. But again, not just the shift in eyeballs, but then like you said, the participants or the players. If you don't have the best players playing in a particular sport, or they're all migrating to another one, well then sports will suffer. But that's all ebbs and flows, because then they'll all come back or whatever it is, and then it comes down to how those sports, in this case, those organisations structure themselves and how they blood players through and bring them through and create competition. So it's important.
Well, it's been a little bit. It's been good that the World Rugby changed the eligibility rules of the 3-year stand down there, because now you're seeing some players coming through for Tonga and Samoa.
Yeah. I mean,
I think it's just the start of something.
Yeah,
Make the competition better.
maybe, and again, maybe it'll be something similar to league where people will chop and change teams, and whoever the best players are at the time. So yeah, a good thing. I mean, it's because again, it comes down to, I guess, eligibility is about representing where you're from, or where you're born, or even where you live. And so if there's a bit more fluidity and again, us as Pacifica, it's like, oh yeah, it'll be good to have all these players because it'll make us stronger. So when we go and play, all the Northern Hemisphere teams, we can, have better games, or if not beat them. So yeah, it's a good thing. But it's going to be tough for our Pacifica, I mean, apart from Fiji, to sort of advance any further. So, but hopefully they will.
And you gotta give it up Fiji having that draw team, in the Super Rugby. That helped a lot,
Yeah, of course. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, they all played together, and then you combine that with playing for your country. Fijians are passionate people, man. You love them. They're laid back, but they love the game, and they love to represent. Well, be a hell of a thing to pull on a Fijian jersey if you're Fijian. So no, I hope they go well. I hope they they advance and get a chance in those quarters, and who knows, get upset those bigger teams.
Well, they got 2 more games now. I think Uruguay and Georgia.
Oh, Georgians are tough, but probably not as tough as they were before.
And they have to win both to get through. So Australia's hoping they'll lose so they can get through. But
nah, mate, I think this is the year for the Fijians to at least get through to the playoffs, and then like I said, they could upset whoever they play in the next playoff, so next round. So hopefully, be good to see. But I guess sort of driving around town or being around town, you don't see too many flags sort of flying.
No.
Yeah, I mean, was it like that when was the World Cup here last 2011, 2015? Or
there was flags. There was flags.
Like if you compare, again, I mean, I appreciate Samoa, Manu Samoa compared to Toa Samoa not doing as well, but you'd sort of, I would have thought a bit more pride, maybe a few more flags, even if they're kaya, or not as good. But yeah, that's one thing. I've seen Fijian flags.
Yeah,
I've seen the Fikis out with their flags. Like, hey, nice, bro.
You don't really see the flags anymore.
No, not really. Not for this one. I don't think. Maybe the next one.
Yeah.
Who knows? But again, it's good for people to show a bit of pride and patriotism. But everyone loves a winner. That's why the Warriors. Everyone loves the Warriors. Everyone loves the Warriors this year because they've been doing really well. Previous years, not so much. But hey,
is that your team? Do you support the Warriors?
Oh yeah, no, definitely. It's I've always been a fan of the Warriors, but I can't say I didn't follow the season too much this year, but it was good to see them make the semis and have a good run. I think Sean Johnson's a good chance to pick up the Dally M. So yeah, I guess we'll see.
I love the hype they brought. With Auckland City and the rest of New Zealand. Like that the event. The games at Go Stadium, they're amazing. Like I watched it on TV.
Yeah. Did you get to go to any games?
No, but because that's not my team I support. But man, I would love to, because just to be in that environment, because apparently I had some friends that have been there and there was nothing to experience.
Or singing the team song. It's always good when you can get the crowd involved with the team song, I heard, which is good. Did you see anything or hear anything about the event they had at Eden Park for the was it the semi-final where they opened up Eden Park? You could watch the game. Did that get a...
Oh, yeah.
Do you know anyone that went to that? Or
I saw on social media. It's Wise Under the Stars. Yeah.
Wise Under the Stars? Oh, nice. Yeah. Did they get a few people? Did they...
I think so. Not as much. I saw all the sleeping bags and all that on the field.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
it's still nice to sleep on Eden Park. It's a very nice. Oh, that's
had the big screen up. And
Oh, cool. Yeah, because not everyone could get tickets, but that just speaks again to the popularity of the team, right? Where you can pack out Eden Park to basically, well, not pack it out, but have people go to Eden Park to watch a game. But it's like, okay, far out. People are actually willing to get in their car or jump on a bus or a train and then go to Eden Park and sit under the stars and watch the Warriors play. So that's good.
Even what the stadium did, like turn off the lights before they jump out, have those the laser shows.
Yeah,
have the fireworks and all that kind of stuff.
Well, you got to make it into a bit of an event, right? So family friendly and that sort of stuff as well. So that would have been cool. Yeah, I was wondering about that because obviously I heard about it. I was like, I wonder if anyone actually went along. Well, who went along and how they found that experience? Because again, not the same as going to the stadium and watching them live, but still being around other people that are on the train, enjoying themselves. So
and the chanting too.
Yeah,
you never see that. No chanting.
Yeah, it's something more for like football fans. It was interesting. We were in Yokohama back in June. Mrs. had an elderly conference because she works in that elderly space. We went to watch the Yokohama Bay Stars. First baseball game. Never been to a baseball game before. And so over there, they have a system where when it's your time to chant, then your team gets up and they start chanting.
Oh, really?
And then when it's, I can't remember if it was when they're batting or when they're pitching. Either way. And then, like, was we were with the Bay Stars, the local team, like, going all nuts for the team. And then when it was time for the opposition to get up, then everyone sat down, like, very respectful,
Yeah.
very quiet. They'd drink their beer, they'd eat their popcorn, and then when it was time for us to get up, "Hey, go!" But it's but obviously it was the game. But then after they had like a massive show, like a fireworks show, and just as a spectacle. So full of families, all these little Japanese people running around, go by stars, go by stars. So it was quite a good experience because again, like, when you go to games or you go to watch professional sport, like you're there to watch, get an autograph if you're a young person, watch the game, try not to pervert the cheerleaders too much, otherwise you'll get a slap in the face. But also just what else do they offer as part of the spectacle? Because when we're watching games, and most of us we watch games at home, but when you go to a live environment where people are cheering and you get caught up in the hype, I guess that's what they were able to capture. The Warriors every game, because they were winning, they were playing really attractive football. So that maintained that momentum. Not enough for them to get past the Broncos, but hey, the Broncos are the Broncos. So
I think fans need that. Fans need that. And I think the problem with rugby union, they didn't offer that kind of thing. Because the fans are like, I don't know, they just clap their hands. That's all the fans,
Yeah. It's,
they're not rowdy like the Warriors, but I think you need to make the fans rowdy. I think there's I don't know, it's like I don't know, you just try to get the hype up, It
needs to be coordinated a bit. Like I said, the Japanese, like there was maybe in the section, and this is just a section, like it's a massive stadium, but they had people at the front sort of leading the chants, putting up signs and then leading the chants. And so, you sort of got people doing that. So, it's a bit like when the Warriors, they have the drummers and all that sort of stuff. But you need, if you can get that buy-in from, even if it's just spectators, or if it's organised through the organisation or the team itself, it's like, it'll help. But you've got to build that atmosphere so that people want to come back or be a part of something.
Yeah, be a part of something, because I want to see the numbers of how many Warriors jerseys were sold this year. Heaps, probably a lot.
You see them everywhere.
Yeah.
And even the old vintage ones, right? Like there's a few of them. So it's like, whoa.
And you're not going to let that happen unless you're winning and you put on shows like that. You make the fans.
It's a big part of it.
You're making an event rather than
like
just going to a game.
Yeah. You're buying into this identity, this culture. Which is,
Americans do it well.
Wow, yeah, Americans have that down packed, right? Because they've big population. Did you see the story about the Washington Commanders? How they're looking to change the name back? Or there's a petition. There's a petition to Redskins. I saw an interview with he's the director of the Native Americans Guardian Association, Native Americans basically, who were saying, well, actually, you shouldn't have changed the name to the Commanders because the chief on the helmets is Chief White Calf. I hope I got that right. White calf. Because Native Americans, they're like white color and then like a body part. Yeah. So that's what. But yeah, it was an actual chief. And so people say, well, why'd you take the chief off? Just because someone said we found it offensive? No, we actually took a lot of pride in that. And then I was like, I was wondering about some of the other American sports teams, like because you got the Cleveland Guardians. They're called the Guardians now. They used to be the Cleveland Indians. But then they changed their name. I think the Atlanta Braves were the only team to keep their name.
Baseball team,
Baseball team, sorry. I'm talking baseball. Yeah. Not that I play or not much of a fan, but I remember the Cleveland and the Atlanta Braves, they kept their names. But again, the Cleveland Indians changed their name to the Guardians, and the Washington Redskins changed their name to the Commanders.
And that's weird because Kansas City Chiefs, their stadium is called Arrowhead Stadium. Arrowhead? Isn't that like Well,
that's what they would use to kill all those people or in each other. And I guess that's the other thing to remember. Like, it's nice to romanticize whether it's Native Americans or even our own people. But it was very savage back in the day. Tribes would take tribes just like Māori. Kai Tangata, for example. I was reading the book by what's his name? Sorry, I've forgotten his name. He wrote a book about how different tribes would conquer each other and then eat each other. But that's just reflective of the time, right? A time where cannibalism was a lot more popular. So it's like, well, if you've got these things that people or tribes used to do, I had this conversation with someone. They're like, well, for example, sorry, I'm going off the wrong track, but anyway, think about in the Pacific Islands. There was the Tuitonga Empire, which ruled the Pacific, right? I think from maybe 950 to about 1200s. Before that, who ruled the Pacific? The Tui Manua Empire, which is from Samoa. So at the time, and again, if I wasn't there, I'm not that old, but again, if that's what historians and archaeologists tell us, then there would have been a period of time when Samoa controlled Tonga, Fiji, the Cook Islands, so they would have had slaves and all that sort of stuff, and then obviously Tonga had their turn. Is there a conversation, this conversation I had with someone, should then what happened there influence what happens today? Because we were slaves to Tongans until we kicked them out, Tuna and Fats and all that story. Well, is there repercussions, or is that a form of colonization? Or what happened there? Should that be acknowledged? Because again, you see that in Pacific culture, you see that in Native American culture, Africa. A lot of the slaves that were sold weren't just white people coming in and taking them. There were Africans selling Africans, right? And that's the transatlantic slave trade. That's all the slave trades. And then you look at the world today, there's 42 million slaves, they say, in the world today. It's a lot more than there was back then. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is that there's practices like slavery and all that stuff that's happened in the past that we need to think about in relation to what happens in the world today. It's not right. It's not good. It shouldn't have happened, or it shouldn't happen now, but it does. And that's what Sound of Freedom was about, right? Sort of, all the sex slaves and all that sort of stuff. So, but interesting.
So, the conclusion for the commanders thing, it's like a waste of time, right?
Well, I think there's a petition in place, but whether it gets changed, we don't know. I guess because I don't know how long they've had that petition in place.
See, that confused me how it was offensive in the first place.
Who was offended? I guess is the question. Was there I don't know, the local tribes that are around that area come and say, hey, you should change the name to something that isn't racist? Or was it another group? I don't know. I don't know enough about it. But again, the explanation that this director from this Native American group said, Redskins is actually a term of endearment. It's something that's powerful for them because their warriors would paint their skin red and then go into battle and fight. So Redskin's not an offensive term to them. It described the process they would to go into battle for their tribe.
So that's not offensive.
So if it's not the natives that found it offensive, well, who got offended?
Yeah,
probably some woke people who said,
it sounds like it there.
Yeah, probably woke white people. Who knows?
Because it's like the Waikato Chiefs.
Oh, the Chiefs.
Like, so, Chiefs is offensive.
Yeah, Chiefs.
So we're talking about Chiefs here. That's offensive. We should change the name.
We should change it to what? What do you want to change it to? Chiefs is a good name. Well, you could say the same thing about the Warriors.
Well, they did it to Crusaders, right? They changed the logo.
Yeah, well, again, and that's more back to the Crusades and sort of what happened when, they had the Crusades and the Muslims and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's, again, if someone gets offended, organizations are quick to just like jump and say, no, we've got to change the name. Well, okay, the people that I guess would be more affected by that, are they the ones that are offended, or are you acting on behalf of, or you don't want to appear?
Are they even sports fans?
Yeah, exactly. And that's I think the argument, right? So it's just saying, again.
Well, that's all the language changing, eh? Since the woke stuff, now the language starting to change, eh?
Yeah,
like we're changing words around.
Microaggressions but I mean, that's not to say that like people that practice cancel culture, people that want to cancel other people that want to, take down. Who's the latest one? Russell Brand, or Andrew Tate, or Jordan Peterson, whoever it is, Tucker Carlson. And I'm using more American, but if people look them up, they'll probably know what I'm talking about. Cancel culture can be two things at the same time. Yep, people can be a bit misguided in that they're trying to say something's bad, but it might come from a good place. But at the same time, if you're out there trying to cancel someone or stop someone from making a living, that's more a reflection on you. You're not doing anyone any good. You're just wanting this person to suffer because what you perceive them to be a bad person. So it's not a good thing. You shouldn't be cancelling people. We should, and we've talked about this many times when we've sat down, let people talk, and if their ideas make sense, cool, and you understand, like, oh yeah, I agree. But if someone gets up and says something really dumb, we should kill all niggers or black people, don't take that out of context, YouTube. But again, if we need to give people, and that's what freedom of speech is, sorry, that's what I'm getting at. Let
Yeah.
people hear ideas, and if they're dumb ideas, and people will be able to tell a dumb idea because it normally involves some sort of harming someone for no good reason. We should be able to express ourselves, and that's what this platform does, which is good.
Well, you're supposed to, when you put something out there, it's supposed to be battling with the ideas out there, and then if it comes back good, if it comes back bad, it's bad.
I mean, we'll all agree that slavery is a bad thing, right? We shouldn't force people to work against their will. They should be, but I guess when you think about indentured servitude, so the difference between slavery and indentured servitude is where maybe you're trying to pay off a debt, so you have to go into some sort of service, slavery. Again, it depends on the relationship and how well you treat, how the relationship between the master and the slave, I guess. It was interesting because I'm in Deuteronomy. So,
Well,
probably over the Bible. So I'll bring it back to what I was talking about. Within Deuteronomy, it talks about how the actual relation, like a lot of people will say that within the Bible, that it endorses slavery, that you should have slaves. If you read in Deuteronomy, it talks about how after 7 years, a master should release their slave. So it's a bit like it has to do with 7 being God's number and all that sort of stuff. And then that slave has the choice of whether they stay with their master or they set themselves free. So it's this idea of where, if you have someone that comes under you, that you have control or dominion over, you should give them the opportunity to be free. And so in that regard, it's like, okay, that's one way you could look at slavery. But again, people, maybe after 7 years, they don't really want to do that. It's a bit like Laban when he did it with Josiah. It's like,
stuff the 7 years, you're for life.
Yeah. If you want your wife, you stay. So it's again, when we look at again slavery and all these things that are happening in the world today, it's about doing harm to other people or keeping them oppressed or suppressed so that you can get something out of it, even if that thing's even just suppressing them or just keeping them down. Even if it has no monetary value, it's just like it's the way that people want to have control and have control over other people. So it's not a good thing because at the end of the day, that'll eat away at you, and you'll be the one that probably suffers the most.
At the same time, when it comes to the Bible, like these are stories that mankind have proved the meaning of life or how it works for society. It works because otherwise they wouldn't have put it in the Bible. They wouldn't have told those stories. Yeah, because these stories last over generations. Yeah. They're like lessons in life. So if they figured out that if you're gonna have slaves, you release them after 7 years. And
give them that option.
Give them an option.
Yeah.
Maybe it does that person a better good for himself, or a good for you to release them, or as the way to do it. So if you think about the 7 years of slave, maybe back then it was like, maybe it's not like a slave as we know it. Maybe it's someone that serves you,
or like works for you. It's like an employee kind of thing. Maybe in more that context. Yeah.
Because when I think about it, if you do the same job for 7 years, you're gonna be bored. You're not gonna be serving as well as you did 7 years ago.
Time to move on.
Time to move on.
Time to find
maybe it's about that.
Yeah. That's definitely one way to sort of interpret it. That's what hermeneutics is, right? Sort of interpreting sort of what it says in the Bible. It's
that also tells me we shouldn't be working for more than we should be going to looking for a different career. Maybe. Are
you silently quitting right now?
Maybe careers don't last. We shouldn't be working one career all our lives.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, we're part of a generation where you have opportunities to move, right? Whereas previous generations sort of stuck at whatever they had. Maybe one, because they had stability as well. Maybe like, you chose a career or you chose a trade or whatever it was, and you had, you knew you could maintain that over a period of time. But again, when you're at the world we live in now, it's people chop and change. Well, maybe because they see better opportunities, but at the same time, maybe there's insecurity or instability in whatever role they're in. So they got to move, So it's sort of adapting to that. Interesting. 7 years, eh?
7 years.
Time to,
I think there's a movie, 7 Years a Slave or something.
Yeah. That's the one with what's his name? I've forgotten his name.
He's a British actor.
Yeah, he's a British actor, but he's really good.
Yeah,
very popular. He does a lot.
I know what he looks like. I forgot his name.
Yeah. No. Well, that's I forget. I'm just trying to remember his name as well. Although I guess because they got that, see how they got their writers' strike? Is it the Hollywood writers' strike still going on?
It finished in Sunday.
Oh, it just finished?
Yeah, but the
Oh.
actor strike's still going.
Oh, the actors' strike, okay.
Actor strike's still going, but the writer's strike resolved.
Yeah, okay.
So I think they got because one of the issues was the AI thing.
Yes,
because
yeah. Explain that, bro. So, yeah.
So the studios wanted to use AI to replace the writers, or they wanted to look into it. But the writers say no, we want AI to help us write. You know, that was one of the things. The second one was that the studios wanted to save money, so they were saying, why do we need 15 writers for one TV show? Like, can we get rid of the writers' room? Because they have a thing called the writers' room where there's 15 people in there just talking about the episodes.
It's where ideas flow and
exactly,
the magic happens.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the reason why they came to that conclusion was that TV shows like popular TV shows like Yellowstone and the other one, what's it called? The one with the hotels, then different resorts every.
Oh, okay.
That one. They've only got one writer. I mean, Yellowstone is Taylor Sheridan.
Yes.
He's a single writer.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a team. Just
okay.
him.
Just him.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's a successful show.
It's huge, eh?
It's a huge show.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So wait, look at that. How come they got one writer? Why do we need 15 for all these other? Yeah. So is that
wasteful spending?
So was that kind of thing too? So, but apparently, writers don't get much anyway.
I guess depends whether you have
it's sort of like a minimum wage kind of job.
Yeah, freelance, or whether you're like a contract or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I guess where, like, if you're getting rid of I guess it'll be interesting to see where sort of acting and TV shows go, because with the way technology is going, like, you can just basically create your own characters, or even, you know, with those deep fakes and the special effects with the audio and stuff, you can make your own actors. And so like, you know, that'll sort of take the actors out, and like if they don't have the sort of people that they want as part of the show, or they just draw them in or create them. So yeah, it's a matter of time before the actors will be like, they'll be all replaced by CGI, and we go from there.
Yeah, so that was the thing that studios wanted to look into, and obviously the writers were scared.
Of course,
you know,
scared, yeah.
future of their job, and that. But they're also gonna cut their hours, kind of thing. Cut their job roles, because other than just writing in the writers' room, as they're filming, there might be changes during the time. So they have to be there.
They do like a run through.
So they have to be there to rewrite stuff if it doesn't work. Yeah, like when they do it live
in front of an audience. And if there's no laugh, sorry, mate.
Yeah.
It's a process, definitely a big process.
Yeah, exactly. Like, so they wanted to get rid of that because they're. Hey, that's more hours for you. We have to pay you if you're in the studio.
And again, I guess because there's more competition amongst studios, and all that sort of stuff. So it's, you know, it starts here, and then all the costs sort of filter down. Where can we chop? Where can we save? So we remain viable. Otherwise,
so the effects of the writer strike, you know, hurt all these studios except for Netflix.
Oh, sure.
Because they've got all these foreign stuff, so they're not affected by the Writers Guild of America.
Oh, of course. Sorry, that's the big association. Okay,
that makes sense. The American one, but Netflix got their hands in other countries doing their own shows in there, so they can continue on with those other shows. You know, true. Whereas the other studios were kind of in trouble because they've only had content for 6 months or something, 8 months.
Oh,
really? Until they run out, and then they got no one to write anymore, so they have to resolve it. So their incentive was to just hold them out.
Yeah.
You're not gonna get paid. Yeah. We got enough content for 9 months.
Oh,
so we'll let you sweat for 8 and 9 months.
Yeah. Hence the reason why ChatGPT comes in and writes a script for them, and
Yeah, but
interesting.
But I think the 8 months was nearly up. They were running out of stuff, so they had to come back to the table again. So it was like a waiting out thing. Yeah. But apparently it was interesting because apparently this happens every time the contract finishes. So there was a writer strike. 7 years ago, and then 7 years before that, because every time they need to renegotiate, they always say, "Nah, we don't want this now," and then they get into a strike. Now it's funny because the last strike that happened, because the studios had no writers anymore, that was the explosion of reality TV shows because you don't need a writer for that.
No, yeah. So it sort of spawns different genres and different types of shows.
Yeah, so that's why we've got heaps of reality TV shows.
Yeah. Well, it's a good thing in one sense, but at the same time, it's not good for those people whose jobs get replaced or start to get phased out.
Well, you get a lot of like not really good shows when it comes to reality shows.
It's either some sort of Love Island or some sort of
you
cooking
get
show.
that kind of stuff.
You're starting to see variations of like cooking shows, or they just changed the name, but it's basically the same concept.
Yeah.
Or people go into hotels and stuff. It's like, okay, well, I've seen this before, but it's just got a different name.
Yeah, so a lot of shows, a lot of TV shows suffered, but I was confused. I was kind of, it was funny to me about the talk shows. They suffered too, and I was like,
haven't they all come?
How do they need writers? Because they're just one guy talking.
Well,
yeah, interviewing.
Doing your monologue.
I
guess it's the monologues.
But they're comedians anyway, so aren't they? Can't they write their own?
Obviously, they're quite lazy then.
No, because they're part of the guild too, eh?
Yes.
So they can't write. Yeah.
They're not allowed to write. Is it? They can't write.
They can't work.
Oh, okay. Well,
if they write their own stuff, then they're part of the guild. Because I think the guild said if you ever work, you can kicked out of the guild.
Well, you'd think those guys would just okay, I'll go on my own then. Yeah, because I did hear that a lot of them, Steve Colbert and sort of Jimmy Kimmel, they all sort of combined to do like shows during lockdown, and they're sort of trying to keep people entertained that way. But I guess you don't have any writers, you don't have any you got to do it on your own. It's like being a podcaster, mate.
Yeah.
You got to come up with your own content and your own marketing, and you got to have these conversations and keep people engaged. Not easy.
You got the point, because then that's probably why they don't understand. Because man, I do my own stuff. Why are they doing their? Why aren't they doing their own stuff?
Well, you'd think with the sort of that's why again why Joe Rogan's so popular, right? And even we talked about Russell Brand and even Jordan Peterson, they're so popular. They go off. They do have their collaborations, Spotify, and all that sort of stuff. But at the same time, they're giving people something a bit different in the long form, but it's actually engaging. And I guess because we're maybe like I remember I used to watch like the David Letterman show with my dad, and we'll crack up, and it was late night and something that we did together as when we lived together. But then that's kind of it's different now because people have access to information more readily. It's more readily available as you scroll, and so a lot of that information. You're going to get it anyway, so you don't need to stay up and watch a talk show. And that's what talk shows are, right? Sort of late night talk show. It's its own genre, I guess. It's its own sort of thing. But it's changed because people are getting information. They don't need to stay up late, and be tired the next day to get that information or that laugh. Well, no, if I want to watch something, I'll just scroll.
It's on demand.
I'll find it, I'll get it. And so I don't have to, I can go to bed when I want. Yeah. So I think that's part of it as well.
Because that's like TV now. Like, do you ever watch TV anymore? Or do you watch on demand?
The odd, maybe the news, just to sort of see what's happening. But I can't say I watch TV. No, it's if I want to watch, if I need to unwind or de-stress or whatever, it's just watch a movie.
Yeah,
stream a movie or something like that. But not the days of like knowing what was on and when. It's just like you're like. Kind of like getting we talked about wrestling last time, sort of the lead up to wrestling, like being I've got to be up until this time, or the league or whatever it was. You watch Night Court or Married with Children. That's how hey, and Martin and Martin as well. Hey, did you see they've rebooted Night Court?
Yeah, I saw that.
The daughter, Harry's daughter, the judge. It's his daughter. That's the judge now.
Harry, the bald guy.
Sorry, who was the judge? What's the name of the judge? No, was it Harry the judge?
It was
Judge Harry something. Oh, we'll have to look that up again. But again, the old judge in Night Court, it's his daughter who's the judge now, and they've brought some of the old characters or the new characters. But I was watching it on a.
He's a cop, eh? Is he? He died, eh? He passed away. The cop, the bald-head cop. Remember the original?
Oh yeah, I think so. Yeah, he'll be gone now. I think even the other guy's gone. But it's
David Larroquette.
There you go.
He's still there.
He's still there.
Yeah.
I can't believe I've forgotten his name. But yeah, it's this sort of so when you're saying that we've got the writer strikes and all that sort of stuff, well, they're just rebooting shows anyway that have some sort of nostalgic value. Whether they'll bring back old Married with Children, who knows? Maybe they'll probably get Al Bundy to come back. They'll get.
I've seen some of them old episodes on YouTube. they'll never fly at this day and age. Some of them.
Or someone will get offended and complain.
There's
It's like, but they're funny. So
they got the fat jokes, the fat shaming and stuff. And
well, he was the original fat
the
shamer,
woman
right?
and the
I'm sure he was just
the
doing.
shoes.
I'm sure he was doing that out of love, right? I'm sure Al Bundy was saying, "Well, look, you can't fit the shoe. If you put it on, you're going to have circulation problems. I don't want you to have circulation." It's actually he's doing a service because he loved these women. He had enough love for them to say, "Hey, don't put on that shoe because you'll lose your leg."
Mm.
But those were the original. Yeah, I remember those. Some good jokes. Yeah, when you watch them back. It's like,
The actors strike. I forgot why they're striking. Is it because of the AI? AI as well?
Well, that's what I was wondering.
Using the likeness, eh?
Yeah, using the likeness because again, you can like those deep fakes that they do now. Like you can pretty much now you have enough audio or you have the technology where you can get anyone to say anything, and it can be an old actor, a new actor, doesn't matter. And then again, all of a sudden, if you don't need people to come in and act or be this particular character, you can just create it and CGI it. Well, then what do you need actors for? So it's a bit like those pop singers, the like hologram, like Asian. So I can't remember their names and stuff.
That's right.
But like they create these characters, these pop singers. It's just like female, male ones, I think as well. But it's just like again because the technology is advanced so much, you don't need people. Well, when you take people out of the picture, well, then what do? Well, they have to go find something else, or you find other things to sort of keep you entertained.
Yeah, someone that brings me back to the Silver Lake deal, because they're a company that's into tech, and part of the reason why they want to get into sports because they own part of they've done the same deal with UFC,
right?
WWE,
yes.
They've got Manchester City,
wow,
as well. Now they got the All Blacks, 15% of the All Blacks.
Yep. They look at who are the big players in the particular markets, and they're like All Blacks, UFC, blah blah blah. Yeah. Yeah.
So they're a private equity, right? So they want a return. That's all they want, a return. But what they offer is because they've got their hands in all these tech companies, they can offer in return what looks like that's probably technology that they haven't made yet, but it's going that way.
They can see the trends that's coming.
Yeah, they can see it. And it's all to do with the way audiences view sports, and it's going to be the future of it. Like, have you seen? I've seen those. You can buy a ticket at a stadium, but it's a virtual ticket, and you're there, but you're watching the game, and you're sitting on the seat. You choose a seat on the stadium, and you're actually in there. That's the view. You're looking at the.
Oh wow!
You're watching the game from that view, from that seat that you bought.
Wow!
And it's all
it's all
virtual, but it's real. The game is real.
That's all metaverse sort of stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's all metaverse stuff and giving people the experience of being somewhere virtually.
Yeah, but instead of they're not virtual game, it's the actual game.
No, it's the actual game.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like when you go to the movies and you pirate movies. So then you got someone who's not that I've done it, maybe not, but they're sort of there with their camcorder, and then you're watching it.
Thing, right? Yeah,
It's just, wow.
Yeah, so it's that kind of thing.
Yeah, true.
And it's also in commentary too, like you can
alternative commentary,
but in the podcast sort of way, like anybody can.
Oh, sure.
And you can tune into anything. Anybody that wants to.
That's not a bad idea. Because some of the commentators, like when you're listening to ex-players talk, like if Mills is on there or JK or even Goldie, because they're World Cups and they know what they're talking about. But then sometimes you get the other ones. And I guess again, if we're talking about sports and the spectacle, you got to have legitimacy in terms of who your reporters are or who your commentators are. Otherwise, people will tune out. Unless they want to have like an alternative. Oh no, I don't want to listen to these guys. Yeah, they're ex-players. I'd rather listen to someone else who's quite funny, which is why when Joe Rogan does his fight companions, and you guys starting to do this as well, where you're watching something, which is really good, bro. It's really smart. It's good that because you can be watching something, but also having a conversation. It's what you do when you go see a mate. Yeah. Oh, watch the game, but really we spend most of our time just talking games in the background. Oh, something exciting. Someone scores a try or someone gets knocked out. Okay, but then you go back to the conversation. It's trying to capture that. And those sorts of interactions, which I think is what people that are smart like yourself will try and do. Give people that are listening like to this episode like it's like they're here having this long form conversation, or just next to us, sort of having it, and they're like, oh, actually, no, that didn't make sense, or whatever it is. So,
Well, I always talked about the boys doing a podcast during the rugby game.
yeah.
But the problem I saw,
Well, they too invested in the game, too busy watching.
you're too busy watching and not even talking.
Oh, really?
You know?
Oh, they must really like rugby then, eh?
But I think it'll be hard to have a conversation during the game. Like you can do your shouting, yeah, go, but to actually talk while the game's going, like
Yeah.
no one really does that, really. Yeah, when you're watching the game, you're cheering
maybe
on.
Maybe for rugby, maybe it's a bit harder for.
Yeah, because it's longer.
I guess
when I watch those fight companions, they do it perfectly because they're just talking all the way through the match. Yeah.
Not really paying too much, but I guess then they're also speaking about, and because you've got a range of fighters, you've got different fighters and different backstories and different things they want to talk about. They'll pull in all this sort of random stuff, and
while they're fighting,
because they can, because they're like, the next fighter, this is his backstory. He's a really good fighter. Yes, I see what you mean about sort of like trying to watch a rugby game. It's like, actually, you're watching it, then you can talk a little bit about it. But then at the same time, you kind of
you got to talk without doing the commentary.
Well,
I mean, you don't want to do a commentary because
you forget about the audience. Just like just watch it yourself, man.
Like I think you have to like know. It would be good to watch a game with a couple of coaches.
Yeah,
rugby coaches, because they can talk about.
They can speak to them, all the technical side, and what goes on behind the scenes.
Yeah. So I thought it was a bit hard when I thought about it. I thought it was a good idea to do. We should try it. But then I thought, will we be even talking? Will we be too busy watching the game?
Well, I guess so. Yeah. No, that's kind of thing. Yeah, even during World Cup would have been would be interesting if you do sort of trial it. But yeah, like you said, it's your level of engagement in terms of watching a game that's only 80 minutes long, or hour and a half in terms of the whole broadcast. That's But then do you sort of have like is it more the post-match analysis? Whereas like you can have like, oh man, what up? You can sort of bring stuff back, and that's where you'd get the bulk of the conversation.
But trying to be original too, not trying to be like a professional analysis.
Not trying to replicate what.
Yeah, but I think this is what I think. Because of this podcast, because we're not professional like analysts, we're not professional players, we're not journalists.
Yeah,
I think there is a space for the fan.
Yeah,
for the sports fan.
Yeah.
And I think those kind of conversations are different.
Yeah, to
the stuff you see on TV and here on the radio.
Yeah,
by real journalists, real athletes.
Yep,
like ex-athletes.
Yeah,
I think
ex-players.
You got ex-players, you got journalists, which you see all the time on TV.
Yep.
But then you got the fan.
Yeah.
I think that's nowhere. What do the fans think?
Yeah.
I mean, does it matter that they don't know everything, every little thing? Or is their perspective, because of that, their perspective is different?
Yeah, true.
Like, I think that's something I want to capture. And this is what I tell the boys that do the rugby.
Yep.
The Canarak and the 135 fully share, the rugby league one. Yep. That man took in the fans' perspective. Like don't worry about trying to be like those
the analysis and
the book in the bar and all that. Like kind of stuff. Yeah. Don't be trying to be like just talk how you talk with us, like with everybody else when you talk about the game.
That's engaging.
That's because it's real too.
Yeah. Yeah, you can hear the passion and you can hear the desperation sometimes. Like, oh gosh, so bad, and
I think there's a space for that. I think if you know how to talk on the fans' perspective, I think that's totally different to anything else.
Yeah. It's it'll be rough and it'll be sort of mixed up, but that's why people love social media, right?
Yeah, and it's the surface kind of stuff too. It's eyeballing stuff.
Yeah.
It's the eyeballing stuff that the analysis would miss out.
Yeah.
Because he's not looking for what's on the surface.
Yeah. He's got to put it into a nice, neat package and tick a few boxes and make sure the bosses are happy that comes across. But yeah, definitely getting the fans' perspective would be fun. Giving people an opportunity to
and that's why it's cool with what the Warriors were doing. Up the wires and that. Because I produced the 135 fully show.
Yes.
And when they're on,
Yeah.
I asked who went to the game. Oh, you got to talk about the atmosphere. You got to talk about your experience, and then like bring all that in.
Bring all that in, bro. That's,
Like not just the game. Like,
that's the gold. Yeah.
it's everything else.
Oh, tackle completion rate. No. I don't know about that, bro. Sing the song, bro. Sing the chant. Sing the chant, bro.
Yeah.
Give us that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I think that's I think that's a space that's not that's not looked at. You know.
No. You're starting to see you're starting to see sort of that merging, but it's not quite there. You're starting to see people, even like when you watch, like I don't watch a lot of sport, but when I watch Sky Sports, you're sort of starting to see a bit more, I don't know, what's relaxed. Maybe they're trying to capture that fan's perspective on things, you know. Even like, not footy shows, I'll say Crow Goes Wild. Even that's pretty laid back in the way they produce their stories.
Back,
and it's, you know, it's like having a conversation with someone at the bar. So it's like you said, it's always just trying to find different ways to bring people in, rope an audience or grab someone's attention, eyeballs. How do you grab someone's eyeballs or their ear? And having that different voice, having that fan's voice, it's a good way to do it. Nice. Wow. I look forward to hearing the episodes. That'll be good.
Yeah, I'm trying to do my own one.
Yeah.
I'm trying to do my own sports kind of podcast.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't know if I should do it under Inside the Clip, like just have another episode segment sort of thing.
Oh, yeah.
You know, Joe Rogan has his normal, then he has his fight companion. That.
Something like that.
Have on the same platform, but different.
Yeah. Give it a go.
Yeah.
Give it a go. And what sort of sports would you look at? Just a range of sports again?
Anything. I think.
I mean, I think the stuff around Silver Lake and maybe those, again, it's sports related. So it's not always necessarily about the games itself. It's what are the stories around the games, because again, that's where you'll get different audiences. And we're not talking like footballers' wives or that sort of stuff, but again, just the stories around the different sports teams or popular sports at the time. What are some of the other stories that are out there and people's perspectives on that?
Yeah.
Because then people are like, oh yeah, that sounds interesting, or that could add to a conversation I have about the sport I'm involved with, or my kids are involved with, or whatever it is. So something to think about. Yeah,
I'm always trying to think about how the perspective for me is an important one. You know, the slogan for West Coast Network is the Polynesian perspective.
It is, yeah.
You know, then got sports, got fans perspective, Polynesian fans perspective.
Yeah.
You know, I got asked by someone the other day, how come you didn't call it Pacifica perspective? And I said, oh, no, because we got a couple of Maoris in our network. I don't want to leave them out. Wow. And then I was thinking, you know what, that's interesting, another interesting topic
in
because it's all about the language.
Yeah.
You know?
Language is important.
We got Polynesian and then Pacifica that sort of separates indigenous from the islands,
Yeah, all labels and names and terms. I mean, they're all classifications and ways of describing sorts of people, and within those labels and names, they're going to exclude and they're going to alienate someone.
Yeah, exactly.
So you have to be mindful when you choose your store, your name or your label that you're going to go with.
Because the word Polynesian, that's an old name, you know, and as people say, oh, you shouldn't use that word because it's the French. They brought it. That's their word.
Polynesia,
you know? It's their word. It's the colonizers' word. You know?
Well, I guess so. But again, it's a term that people understand and recognize, right?
Yeah.
And again, whether it's Polynesian or Pacific or Pacific, it's all talking about brown people from this part of the world. So which one do you want to go with?
Brown perspective?
Brown. Although some of us are more pink, depending on, during the winter time. I'm sure in Samoa you're going to get a lot more browner and walking around on the beach. But
or the new one, Moana. Is that the new one?
Is it?
People of the Sea.
People of the Sea. Oh, blue people. Oh, like Avatar. Way of water. Oh, you're going to go blue. Oh, yeah, okay. There you go. Yeah, that works as well. With the Moana people. Yeah. Hey, lots of things to think about. Nice.
Jack, man. Did it again, man. We did it again.
Oh, silly. No. Good to catch up with you. So like I said, it's I was looking forward when you flicked me a text, said, oh, yeah, come back on. I'm like, oh, yeah, cool. And like you, just turn up, start talking.
Yeah.
let's see what comes of that and where we sort of circle back to. But at the same time, yeah, good to catch up with you. It's good to see your nice new home. Look into the exchange students just to help out because that might be something worth thinking about.
Oh, as well? Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Have to talk to the man, Pat.
Yeah. Like I said, it's a good way to keep paying for those bills. So, But hey, all the best. Hey, enjoy your trip in Samoa as well. Look forward to hearing about it when you come back. And keep doing what you do. It's really good.
Thanks, Uzo.
Catch up. So far. Yeah.